welcome back to the Krueg Show. Big Thursday night edition of the Krueg Show after Warrior basketball. The Warriors are moving on to the NBA Finals, winning tonight over the Dallas Mavericks in Game 5. That's right, the gentleman's sweep, 120-110. Golden State going to the finals, guys, for the sixth time in the last 8 years. The first team to do that in the NBA since Jordan's Bulls. Welcome to the Krueg Show. I'm Larry Krueger. The man on my left is Ryan Smith. The man on the bottom of the screen, Dan Coach Emilio. The great Cyrus Satsis, the czar of all that is Locked On Warriors, will be joining us as well. We may hear from Kylan Mills, from Cron, and we definitely want to hear from you. We're going to go audio calls tonight, video calls, and we're working the chat right out of the chute. Lots of people are fired up. Clarence Beeks already saying, pass that over here, Cy. We got this one. Warriors pulled it off. So if you want to get in the chat, please do. Gentlemen, what'd you think? Golden State gets a 10-point win, and they're moving on to the finals, a place that they have absolutely they've been as regular a participant in the finals in the recent days as any team in history of the NBA, almost going back to the Celtics. What'd you think of the clincher tonight?
Well, I want Dan to go first, but first I want to set Dan up by playing. We're going to make some people eat a little crow on this podcast. All right, this was right after the Wiggins trade went down. Nick Wright on national TV.
Wiggins is a bad basketball player. He's owed $95 million over the next 3 years, starting next year. It's unspeakable they did this. Listen, people think I dislike the Warriors. There's things they've done that have irritated me. But going into this year, I said I thought they could be the 6th seed. I thought that if Klay came back at the end of the season, they could be dangerous. And that starting next year, we'll see if they can rejuvenate the old Splash Brother 15-16 team and be dangerous. It's over for them now. We will never see Steph in another NBA Finals, ever. They have no path forward. Draymond's 30. Klay's 30. Steph's about to be 32 when he takes the court again in mid-March, one would assume. They are Draymond, Wiggins, Klay, and Steph next year. $128 million for the cap. Cap's $115. They have no way to get better now. And you can say, oh, well, now they have their top 5 pick. If Minnesota's terrible next year, a good pick there.
Kuminga.
Young players do not help you in the playoffs unless you're the Raptors. The last young player to make a big impact in the NBA Finals prior to the Raptors was Kawhi 7 years ago. I can't believe Bob Myers did this. I just can't. I'm shocked that they went this route instead of what you're saying. Take your own pick, pair it with your best asset that you actually might move, and try to get someone that can help you. I would have loved to see Steph Curry's live reaction to this because he now has to go play with Andrew Wiggins.
He's going to drive to the hoop again. He kicks it out to Wiggins. Wiggins goes in for a monster slam.
Gorgeous, Dan.
Oh, man. I am
awesome.
so
Nick
happy
Wright,
you played
now
Nick
Danny.
Wright because I want to roast Nick Wright because Nick Wright, I don't know how you have a job on the national scene. It befuddles me that you have this voice. You picked the Dallas Mavericks. I know you're in Texas, but you picked the Mavericks in 5, okay? 5. And I believe you kept to that even after they lost game 1. You thought they were going to turn around and sweep the Warriors 4 straight. You are a fool, an absolute fool. I mean, you picked – I just can't understand how he has a job. I mean, how does a guy like that? He probably hasn't even dribbled a basketball, let alone shot
It's entertaining. He's got a job because we're talking about him right now. That's why.
Unbelievable.
Hey,
I'd like to take that guy at 60 years old and post him up and just slam one down. I need a trampoline now, but dang, I'd love to slam in that guy's face. He's just an absolute fool.
Oh God!
So if you pick the Mavericks, come on. If you pick the Mavericks, you either know nothing or you know so much that you overthought it.
That's what it is.
That to me, there's two groups of people that pick the Mavericks. The people who have no idea what they're doing, and the people who watch it so close and analyze it so much that they started seeing something that they never should have been seeing. And that is, look at Golden State. Once again, I'll make the same point I made the other night. Green, Wiggins, Looney, Curry, Thompson. Those are your starting five. Kuminga's a starter. Poole's a starter. Moody's a starter. Otto Porter's a starter. That's 9 starting caliber players on Golden State. Let's flip it over to the Mavericks. I really believe Doncic is a starter. Dinwiddie's a starter. He's just a little long in the tooth and coming off the bench. Everybody else on this team, Brunson, Powell, Bullock, Finney-Smith, Kleber, Bertans, Chris, they're all bench players. Yeah. They're all role players. None of those players should start on an NBA Finals team. So, needless to say, Golden State is moving on, and now it's a matter of can they get the rest that they need, because they're going to need rest, I think, to take down a Boston or a Miami. And as much as I thought it was Boston, then I said, you know what, guys, I thought it was Miami. Now I think it's Boston again, because I just think Miami's hitting the wall. And if the one thing that's really interesting about these playoffs is that when you think of attrition, you think of baseball, 6-month season. Yeah. You think of football, man, they start in July and there's all these injuries. By the time you get to the Super Bowl, it's February. But man, the underrated aspect of the chase for the Larry O'Brien trophy is the attrition that you go through. And you know what? I think the Warriors and Bob Myers, Nick Wright, I think it's so fitting, Rye, that you had Nick Wright on right there, because Nick Wright was crapping on Bob Myers. Why? Because he didn't take some of his young pieces and parlay it all for a Bradley Beal. But you know what Bob Myers said? You know what? I saw Toronto beat us when we had superstars left and right, and there were a couple injuries. So I'm going to go with the depth play around Steph Curry. It's good for this year. It's good for my owner's business. I'm going to go with the depth play. I'm not going to trade all these guys for one veteran player and shorten my championship window. I'm going to extend my championship window and try to create the deepest team I can think of. And now here we are. They are 4 wins away from another NBA title. Their 6th trip to the finals in 8 years. They're a certifiable dynasty on the verge of another title. So way to go, Bob Myers, because he resisted that pressure to say, you know what, we'll trade it all for Bradley Beal.
Even the players wanted him to.
Yeah. Yeah. And they could. And, James Wiseman's not doing anything for them right now. And you could argue they'd be here if they'd made those moves anyway. Yeah. But now they're here with a cheaper, younger team with a championship window that's been extended by 5, 6, 7 years because they didn't make the trade. So I think Bob Myers played his hand of cards the right way. I really do.
Absolutely. Can I just read you a list of names real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Jerry West, Havlicek, Kobe, Michael Jordan, Shaq, Wilt, Bob Cousy, Tim Duncan, Elgin Baylor, and now Steph Curry. NBA superstars with 6+ finals appearances. That is some hallowed company right there.
And you have to add Klay to that. Look at Klay. 6 out of his last 6 full seasons going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I saw something that said the last time Klay Thompson played during the season and didn't go to the NBA Finals, Jonathan Kuminga was 11 years old.
That is awesome.
Well, you talk about the Mavericks having maybe 2 NBA starters in Luka and Dinwiddie. The Warriors have 8. You got your starting 5, and then you got Poole, Porter, and GP2 that could all start for other teams. I mean, there's 8, and the bench has still got more depth. You got Moody or or Lee who can
I
play.
mean, how about Bielitsa tonight? That was the revelation. What the heck was? I don't know if it's a little EuroLeague on EuroLeague crime. Bielitsa also won the EuroLeague MVP, but he was not scared to just D up Luka one-on-one. Like, what the heck? Why was he not getting playing time in this series?
Well, that was a great opportunity too. I mean, get Bielitsa a few minutes here, 22 minutes. Maybe he gets a little rhythm. You played Poole 28 minutes. They leaned on Kuminga and Moody in the back half of this series to get those guys a little run. Golden State is deep. They've got great chemistry because they've been, together since the beginning of the year. There hasn't been, it's basically been the exact same roster all year long. They haven't broken up. This group went to training camp together. How many times do you see that where a group goes all the way through an NBA season with almost no additions and no changes to the roster? These guys are very tight. It's a good mix of young and old. It's a really, really solid coaching staff that's been there before. They believe in the direction that Kerr's taking them in. Their starters have all been there before. And now you got Wiggins playing at a crazy high level. I'll say this too, and we said it the other night, guys. The one great development for Golden State and also, makes it, something worth debating. I mean, someone could say it's not the time or place to debate this, but look how well Andrew Wiggins is shining on the national stage. There was a report today that Cleveland would like Andrew Wiggins. I bet you Toronto would give you Pascal Siakam for Andrew Wiggins. And now if you're the Warriors, you got to debate that question. Do you want to get rid of Andrew Wiggins? Because he's playing great. He's in the prime of his career, but you've paid Green, you've paid Klay, you've paid Steph. Now you're going to have to extend Wiggins. You're going to have to pay Poole. I'm not sure if they can afford all of those guys, but now, it was a foregone conclusion that they'd pay Poole and probably shop Wiggins. Well, if they go that route, they're going to get an awful lot for Wiggins. Just because he's, that jam that he had the other night was maybe one of the best jams of probably the best jam of anybody in the postseason. And this guy's doing it on both ends of the floor, and he's showing dimension to his game that I think most NBA people didn't think he had. So nobody's improved their value in the trade market this summer more than Wiggins has in this playoff run.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he's an Iron Man. He's available every game. He doesn't miss games.
He doesn't get tired.
No,
he doesn't get tired.
Should he have been the MVP? We've got
that
Kid
was
Trickster said Wiggins should have won the MVP over Steph.
If Steph had an all around great series, I mean he got the Warriors back in game 2. He was the catalyst, with the assist. He had a couple of double doubles, I believe, in the 5 games. I mean, Wiggins was great. I mean, he was, 1A. Steph was 1. I mean, I think had Curry not been so consistent really in all 5 games, even tonight, even though he didn't score a ton, he was playing good defense and he was getting assists. And, I mean, it was to me, Curry after the 4th, after we played 4 games, it was all Curry.
Yeah, the Wiggins thing would have been more like performance over expectation, like who performed, above their expectation the most. You can't, I mean, clearly Curry's the most valuable, but if you could then get into the talk of Looney or Wiggins, and Wiggins was awesome, man. He was the most consistent guy other than Steph this whole series. And I don't know if either of you guys, because Larry, bringing it back to what you were saying, I was right there with you. Like, oh my God, like the trade market for Wiggins is kind of insane. But all of a sudden it's like Wiggins is laughing and smiling in a way he never did. You see him, he's all buddy with Steph, and Steph gets so fired up when he gets going. And Marcus Thompson wrote a great article essentially saying Wiggins is now part of the fold. He's now a key guy, and that's the way everyone in the Warriors organization, from the key players to the management, is looking at it now. Is like he has now, because you can't know that until you get in these highest of pressure situations, but because of what he did in the Western Conference Finals and, versus Memphis, he basically has cemented himself as a core piece, and he now, I don't think, will be a trade piece. going forward.
It's interesting. It makes you. Sorry, Danny. I'm sorry, but I was just going to say it makes you think that when you look at this offseason, that you may be looking at the team that they have, and then you just let Otto Porter go, and you let Bjelica go. And, I'd be all for re-signing Looney, and I'd be all for re-signing GP2. But maybe you re-sign those guys, and, they've got 3 draft picks. They got a late first. They got 2 seconds. Maybe you replace Porter and Bjelica and Damian Lee and some of those veteran pieces with younger players, that are cheaper, second-round pick, draft picks, rookies, undrafted guys. I think this is a very, very underrated draft. Maybe instead of going with Bjelica and Porter and Lee off the bench, maybe you go the rookie route next year and you save money. And then you just bring back your exact core, re-sign Looney, re-sign Payton, and away you go. And if you get James Wiseman to actually fulfill anything close to the potential that he clearly has, this team's they're going to win multiple titles beyond this year. Now, this year's no automatic, in my opinion, because Boston is really good. Tatum's playing at a high level. Marcus Smart is dinged up, but Boston is really, really good. And that's going to be a tough one. That is going to be a tough series no matter what. And I think it's going to be Boston at this point just because Miami seems like they're running into a wall physically. They're just not healthy. I mean, Miami, Butler is not healthy. I mean, they're just not physically right now. Kyle Lowry and Butler are their best players, and those guys aren't physically right. So I would say it's going to be Warriors Celtics. And to me, that worries me. That's not this thing's in the bank. Hell no. By the way, is this true? Was Nick Wright predicting the Warriors to lose when they were up 3-0? Is that true?
But it was a little tongue-in-cheek. I mean, it was a little tongue-in-cheek. But he was basically saying, like, I don't think it was very genuine, but yeah.
What do you guys think of a Warriors-Celtics NBA Finals? How much does that series concern you guys?
Oh, it frightens me. Rob Williams scares the crap out of me. We all saw how dominant Bam.
He's not healthy, and he's not 100% either.
He is not 100%, but he was incredible this past game. And literally, Bam goes from being just an absolute monster to almost a non-factor when Rob Williams is out there. And I don't think there was a single field goal made with Rob Williams, within the vicinity of the past game. So, yeah, I mean, they really scare me. I mean, just their ability to switch with Smart and Tatum and Brown and Horford and Grant Williams and Robert Williams and Derek White's a great defender. Peyton Pritchard's a great heat check guy off the bench. They just have a lot of options defensively, and I wonder if it turns into a rock fight, honestly.
They got a lot of size. That's the one thing about Boston. They got a lot of size. Boston's starting. I thought Miami looked a little deeper early in the series, but man, Boston's starting 5 has outplayed Miami's starting 5, and that's where this series has pivoted. And I think this is it. I think that's the momentum shift that the last one we'll see, even though it's been very much back and forth in that Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's going to. I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance, but I think Boston is in charge of the series and will prevail. And then it's a matter of, can the Warriors beat the Celtics? They'll have the home court, but can they, how do they deal with that incredibly raucous crowd in Boston? Because I always felt like every time I watch those games where Boston's at home, that their fans are just going crazy. All right, who's at the front door, Ryan?
I think it's a Coach Emilio.
Hello. Who's joining us?
Okay. How are you guys doing tonight?
This is Coach Emilio.
Yes.
All right. Let's give me your thoughts. We're all here. Dan and Larry and Ryan.
Well, I think it's just a great story. Just the Klay Thompson comeback and the whole deal with the exodus of Kevin Durant, and for them to just reorganize and go through what they went through. They're really proving the greatness and the leadership of those three guys, Thompson, Curry, and Green. And I'm really happy for them. I think that they're all, this is really a historical run. It just truly is.
I'll tell you, it's interesting. I think it's interesting, Coach, that you're talking about, as far as, this group, because, the one thing that, there's a lot of people who part ways when they're no longer going to be together, and, somebody leaves a company and they leave on bad terms, right? Or they slam the door on the way out, or they burn a relationship on the way out the door, or somebody's leaving your company and then maybe the leadership of the company don't treat them all that well, because it's like, hey, you're leaving us, get out of here. And there's like this emotion and rejection. I'm referring to the point when Kevin Durant left the Warriors, and I thought he did the Warriors a solid by, instead of just leaving, allowing Bob Myers, because he had respect for Myers and respect for the organization. He didn't want to leave him totally high and dry, so he let them trade him and be part of a deal, which brought in D'Angelo Russell, which ultimately wound up in a deal that resulted in Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. And so, they lost, Kevin Durant, and he moved on, but he could have just moved on. Instead, Myers makes that trade, turns around Russell, and it turns Russell into Wiggins and Kuminga. And here we are. The Warriors have pivoted. Now they've got, they're headed to the NBA Finals. Wiggins is part of their rotation. Kuminga is very much a part of the rotation and very much a part of the future. And that was a key maneuver. And you got to, as much as people want to bash on KD, this and that, and I kind of get that, because it's like, oh, KD's left and he left us and he could have stayed. Yeah, but he did you a solid. And look at the way Myers pivoted off of that. And now here, a couple short years later, Golden State looks primed for an extended run in the finals.
Yeah, well put. I mean, look, Kevin Durant is a solid person. He's professional. And I've got a son who lives in Austin, and I've gotten a chance to go to some of the practice. I went to a couple practices this last year with Chris Beard and the University of Texas and his turnaround there. And Kevin Durant, donated a lot of money to their practice facility, upgrading their facility, and I think for Kevin Durant is a class professional and an NBA great. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And then, I mean, it's interesting though. I mean, it definitely is a notch for Stephen Curry though. I mean, that's what everyone's going to be saying now. It's like he brought Harrison Barnes to the finals, even the year when KD got injured and they made it to the finals versus Toronto. Pretty much who was their starting small forward? Alfonso McKinney, and because they didn't have Barnes or KD. Then he brought KD. And now he's brought Andrew Wiggins, and Andrew Wiggins looks better than he ever has. So yeah, I mean, I think you can't really deny the spot that the small forward or whatever you say gets to have in this Warriors offense.
Well, Andrew Wiggins, he has benefited from the leadership.
I think he dropped off.
We lose Coach?
I think we lost Coach.
Coach, get us back. We'd love to get you back in here. Pinoy reformat says, don't make KD a saint, Krug. Nets needed the cap space as well. KD wanted DeAndre Jordan. KD even asked for a first-round pick in that deal. He didn't have to play with the Warriors, though. He could have moved on. And he didn't have to, allow the Warriors to benefit in any way, shape, or form. And he did. So I'm not saying it was all for the Warriors. I'm sure he had his own purposes, but it definitely wound up helping the Warriors. Definitely wound up helping the Warriors turn it around. They weren't going to be able to
have a max slot like that otherwise. We got Coach back.
Do we have Coach back? Coach, you back with us?
I'm back. I got cut off there, but I was going to make the point that Andrew Wiggins has benefited from the mentorship of Iguodala and Green and, obviously Curry. Thompson. I mean, when he was, came out of Canada and he was at Kansas and then he left, and then he's the number one pick in really a weak draft, there was so much expectations on him. The guy was just doomed to not succeed. And for him to get out of the situations that he was in, to be on a veteran team, and for them to, give him the confidence and kind of the protection that he didn't have to be the guy, he has really been a great addition to their team.
No doubt. And he's in the prime years of his career. I think that really helps. And he's a two-way player who's committed to the defensive end. I mean, his game has had a career, renaissance. I mean, in a Warrior uniform. And I think you're right. I think he's taken the lead from some of these other guys. When you're around a lot of young teams in the league, you start playing selfishly. You start playing maybe for yourself. When you're around a team that's all about the win, I think it's a much different feel. And then you got to learn how to kind of blend. It seemed like Wiggins was uncomfortable when Thompson came back and they didn't play naturally together for a while. But now, now they've played so many games and this team has melded together, I think, as a personality wise. And Coach, you started off your commentary talking about Klay Thompson. We probably should talk more about Klay, who had a game high 32. He was plus 18. He was 12 of 25. He was 50% on 16 threes. Give me your thoughts on Klay Thompson, because there's clearly some, in fairness, there's some regression to his game. I sure like him more when he doesn't try to create off the dribble and shoot off the dribble. I like him peeling off screens and in catch and shoot. To me, he's far better in that role than when he tries to take a couple dribbles and hoist. Give me your thoughts on what you see from Klay, pre-injury compared to what we're seeing right now.
Well, I mean, it was brought up during the game. I think either Reggie Miller or Stan Van Gundy, where they said he scored 61 points on 11 dribbles. So that's an attestament to what you're talking about, Larry. But his maturity, and both the story of Klay Thompson and of Steph Curry, from coming along as rookies. I mean, Klay coming in from Washington State was immature. He even had situations. I don't mean to bring up a bad situation. I only bring it up to show how much maturity and a professional he's gone into. I remember he had a bad game and he just got in the car and took off with his uniform on and went home when he was a rookie. I don't know if you remember that, but he has come a long way. And, and Steph, if you look at early on when he was, with all the guards they had with Baron Davis and all those guys kind of rejecting him. And you look how Steph has just risen to the top and Klay. And I think a lot of it's been the leadership of back when Jerry West was involved with them. But I also think that you got to give Bob Myers a lot of credit and Steve Kerr, that these guys have really done a great job managing and developing their character and letting them mature. And I think it's the leadership of Kerr and of Myers that have done a great service to all of these players in teaching them how to be professional and committed. And of course, nobody has the work ethic of Steph Curry. I mean, he's amazing. And obviously, I've been around Steph, and met him a couple times, and he's a genuine person. In fact, his wife's younger brother was in our program at Diablo Valley College for a couple of years, and Steph was always really supportive and really respectful to me. Just a very class person, and but he is a greyhound. As an athlete, he's not a very big a man, but he has gotten stronger, and he's a late bloomer, and he's worked so hard. He's really strong. His work ethic in the weight room. I mean, and he is truly, always in motion, as you can see. Set aside the great shooting. The guy really has a great motor, and he's got a great instinct offensively, great vision. I mean, obviously, we all see sometimes he gets careless with his passes, but that's kind of how he plays. But, you want me to speak to Klay Thompson. I'm really happy for him. you can't imagine to have what he did with the ACL in the finals against Toronto, and then to come back from that and then to tear an Achilles tendon, which is really one of the most difficult things to come back from, because it's a tendon and it's sewn back together. And there's no doubt he doesn't have the same youthful quickness and agility, but he's still very effective. But I agree with you, Larry. I think that with Poole out there who can penetrate, and with Curry who can penetrate, he becoming more of a spot up, when they spread the floor. Yeah, I agree with that, with your assessment.
Did Jason on the text line here says, did Coach say that he coached at Napa Valley College? Where did you coach?
No, Diablo.
Diablo Valley College. Diablo Valley. DVC.
College. Yeah, Diablo Valley College. Yep.
Yeah, you knew Bob Myers right, when you were at DVC?
Well, it's a great story. Bob went to Monte Vista High School, and he was unsigned, and so he was enrolled. I think it was back in like the summer of '94 or '95. He was enrolled at DVC. He was in our summer workouts, and he was going to play in our program. And we were having summer workouts in late July, and then one night, and he comes up to me. He goes, he's got his head down, and he goes, "Coach," he goes, "I got some bad news." And he goes, "I'm going to walk on at UCLA." And I go, "Oh, Bob," I go, "You're never going to play there, and you could go here for a couple of years, go to St. Mary's, Santa Clara, USF, it'd be great." He goes, "Oh, Coach, I'm going to do it." So later on, after years of, he played on the national championship team with Jim.
Sure.
He and Brent Berry, who, I know Brent very well because when I was coaching at De La Salle back in the 80s, I coached Scooter and John, and I know Brent very well. And he's now, the vice president of San Antonio Spurs. But he and Bob Myers are really good friends. And so, Brent's agent was Arn Tellem down in Los Angeles. And so Bob, through Brent, gets to know Arn Tellem, becomes one of his associates in his business, becomes an agent that's really well respected and well liked. And then he becomes a general manager based on his, his volume of work as an agent. He becomes a general manager of the Warriors. And I mean, look at the phenomenal job that he has done. I mean, he's a first-class guy. He's humble. He's respectful. But I still look at the years where they had Jerry West as an advisor as really important. A guy that also should get credit is the guy that really, I know Nelly did, but there's a guy, was it Larry Riley? He was
Larry Riley, who drafted Steph.
Riley was the one. Yeah, he drafted Steph.
Well, not only that, Coach, Steph told Nelly and Riley, him through Dell and Steph and whoever represented Steph at the time said, don't. He didn't work out for the Warriors, and he didn't want to play for the Warriors, and he basically told the Warriors as much, and they just said, "You know what? We'll decide if you play for us or not." And to me, that was a pivot. That was a big pivot point for the franchise, because the Warriors in past years would have said, "Oh, you don't want us to play for us. Oh, we'll take Todd Fuller. You can have Kobe. We'll take Donald Foyle. You can have T-Mac." They would have gone in a different direction. They would have gone with somebody else, and instead they said, "You know what? Our evaluation is that Steph Curry's going to be special, and we're going to take him if he's there." And it took that courage of their convictions to kind of reverse the Warriors' fortunes, and look at how it's all turned out. I mean, it's just been an incredible thing. And then I think Myers this year, I realized the executive of the year went to the Memphis guy, but look what Myers did this year. He had to decide between Avery Bradley or Gary Payton II. Went with Gary Payton II. Got Bielitsa and Porter to sign for the league minimum. Invested 2 picks and 2 19-year-olds in Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, who have turned out fabulously. I mean, they have a really nice, deep roster that's ready to win now and probably going to be primed to win into the future. And, he saved his owner $30 million by not spending that $5 million at the end there at the mid-level. So, that was probably a smart move. And so he did his owner a solid. He stood up to his star players who wanted a different defender and got in my mind clearly the better defender in GP2. And they've got a great chemistry. He's got a great mix of young and old. And this was a year where Wiseman didn't work out and never got on the floor. Imagine when that kid gets out there and starts doing his thing. I mean, Bob Myers, I think, has done a really, really nice job since Jerry West left. Now, not every move worked out, right? Jacob Evans and, Patrick McCaw and, some of the picks that they made were not great picks. But this offseason, I think he handpicked almost the perfect roster.
But I believe Jacob Evans was in the trade for Wiggins, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
Patrick
he went to the trade for Wiggins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick McCaw won a championship with the Raptors as well.
Yeah.
He was like
but he's not even playing now, though. But Steve, what's your take on James Wiseman and his career? What do you project from Wiseman?
From what I hear conflicting things. There's been questions. This is just rumors that I've heard, but talking to people who are in the know, is that his work ethic is not up to par where it should be, and they've been kind of frustrated with him. But as a gifted athlete, as long as he is, I mean, he played one game at Memphis, when Penny Hardaway brought him in, and then he had the whole NCAA deal where he never played. And then they draft him, and then, COVID hits and everything that's going on. Look, he's still young, and I would not give up on an athlete like that. You cannot. His quickness off his feet, his length, his timing, and he's got pretty good ball skills. So I think that having him, I see him behind the bench. I see him. He's there. He's watching all of this. He's got to be learning and growing from just being an observer in it. And so I wouldn't give up on him. They did have a decision to make, because the thought was, okay, this is the last run for Curry, Green, and Thompson. Let's bring in a veteran. But they made a decision in drafting Moody and Kuminga to go for to not give up on the future. And it looks like a great move now, because not only did they not give up on the future, they have a great future, but they brought in guys who can, contribute to the core. And so I think they're in a really good place, because, Curry and Green and Thompson still have, in my opinion, 2 or 3 good more years in front of them.
Well, and also, let's be honest here, too. I mean, when you have a rookie or two on your team who are going through everything for the first time, that's, that can be a point for the team to kind of have joy and bond around. It's like, hey, these guys are good. Well, yeah, we're going to Boston. Okay. Yeah. We're tired. We've all been there before, blah, 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 regular season. Hey, these guys have never been there. Wow. They've never been to Boston. Well, who's going to take them out and that kind of thing. And I just think when you have some youth on your roster, that helps navigate through the, the tough parts of the season, because those guys are improving, and also the different vibe. If you had traded Wiseman and Kuminga and Moody all for Bradley Beal, and let's say Bradley Beal, somehow pulled a hamstring, now you'd feel like, oh man, we accelerated all these guys into this year's window, and now we've got this player, but he's not really ready to help us, or he's only ready to help us 80%. And it's like, yeah, we really traded the future, and we might have shortchanged our championship window, so on and so forth. Yeah. They got it all here. They're ready to win a title, and they took the long range view. Who's at the door?
Oh, no, he just dropped off.
Oh, I got you. We lost Steve there.
He's back in.
He's back. Hello,
Steve, you back with us?
Yeah, yep. For some reason, I keep getting cut off. But
yeah, I was just saying the difference in the vibe between trading. Let's say you could have traded Kuminga and Wiseman and Moody for Bradley Beal, and then it would have put more pressure on them this year to like this. They better get there. I mean, imagine the different vibe if right now you took out what they had and gave them a guy like Beal. They'd have more firepower, sure, but the vibe would be like, oh man, they better get it done because they sold out on their future to win now. And it would have added pressure to this year and it would have changed the whole dynamic. Instead, they went with the young rookies. The upside's great. The vibe that they had, top to bottom chemistry wise was good. They got a nice blend of young and old. And now it's like, yeah, are they going for it and going for the title this year? Of course they are. But there's also that kind of positive vibe that, man, they've made some good decisions and their window's open for an extended period of time. And it takes some of the this year pressure off of their shoulders. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the Lakers. I mean, look what, they went with Westbrook and it didn't really work. It was not a good chemistry. And then they didn't have anybody on their bench that really could play or do anything. They sent a number of key players, to New Orleans and all around. And so I think the Lakers are in bad shape because they made that mistake.
Yeah, they went all in this year. Coach, good stuff, man. We're gonna let you go because we're welcoming Cyrus Satsis back to our thing, and we'll just. Do you have a final thought before we say goodnight?
Well, I don't want to. Hey, Larry, do you mind if I interrupt here? I don't want to send Coach. I can only stay for a few minutes just to let everyone know I'm dying. Like, I'm not literally, but damn close. This COVID thing is real, dude. I have a fever. I've been coughing all day. I have to just come in here and just quickly just say what's up because the Warriors are going to the NBA Finals and I'm pumped. But I don't want to send off your guest, given I can only make a cameo here, man. I'm really not doing good though. But
all right, yes. Well, we won't say goodbye to Steve. Then we'll just let Cy get his thoughts in quick. Go ahead, Cy. What'd you think? I mean, the Warriors got a 10-point win. It was a huge night for Klay Thompson. Draymond Green played terrific. Steph gets the MVP, and the Warriors get some much-needed rest before they take on the winner of the East.
Oh, yeah. The week off is huge. I want to do a shameless plug to Locked On Warriors because earlier today I had Mark Jones on. ESPN play-by-play voice. He's actually the voice of the Sacramento Kings now. But Mark's been calling the Celtics Heat series for ESPN Radio with Doris Burke. And a lot of the interview was focused on hypotheticals in terms of how the Warriors would match up against either team. Yeah. I don't want to write off the Heat just yet. Everyone seems to be doing so. Look, I'm not going to bet money on that, obviously. I'm not going to go on a limb. But I don't want to write off the Heat yet. But in all likelihood, it's going to be Warriors Celtics. I don't have a prediction yet. It's crazy, man. I don't know how to say this without being arrogant, but it's pretty. I'm 3 for 3 in predictions so far.
Nailed it.
I don't know again how I feel about the finals. I don't even know who the opponent's going to be yet. But I will say this: if it's the Celtics, that's going to be a wild series. I do think the Warriors are vastly superior. It might be a long series just because the Celtics they're a damn good team. They're long. They're disciplined. They are experienced. They never won a championship, but they've had deep playoff runs time and time and again. And so, I just don't want to count them out, dude. They are a dangerous team. But the Warriors, when you compare them on paper, when you look at the matchups, when you look at who the Celtics' best player is, which is Jason Tatum, the Warriors just faced 2 guys who are better than him, and they held their own. Maybe even 3, if depending on where you rank John Morant. And the Celtics don't have a lot of offensive weapons. So they're going to so if it comes down to the Celtics having to outscore the Warriors, I don't know how they're going to do that. Everyone hypes up their 3-point shooting, but I don't see it. I mean, everyone hyped up the Mavericks 3-point shooting, and we saw how that went. Those shots don't fall like they normally do in the NBA Finals. So you're going to have to rely on easier buckets. And the Warriors, especially if Gary Payton II comes back, Andre Iguodala still might come back. Anthony Slater mentioned today that's a possibility. I'm feeling great about it. I really am, man. It's not going to be easy, but I really think the Warriors won the title. And Dub Nation, baby. I wish I was feeling good enough to party tonight, but dude, this COVID thing's real, man. People get vaxxed, please. stay away from people that have it. This is not a fun experience. Larry, you told me you've had it twice. I don't know how
I have had it twice. Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad for me, but yeah, I mean, it's everybody's.
Today's a bad day for me. I woke up today like
different.
The tips of my fingers, the bones were every bone in my body's hurting. I'm like, I'm coughing up. Sorry, man. I don't mean to go descriptive, but it's just please don't get this, folks. Stay away if you can, man. It is brutal.
And you've had this for a number of days now already, haven't you?
Day 3, yes. Today's like the day 3, and anyways, man. But the Warriors seeing a game like that just makes you feel better. Did you guys see Charles Barkley, by the way, almost getting into like a full-on fight with the crowd?
Yes, I meant to bring that up, but Coach was rolling. So I saw just the Twitter video. It looked like the Warriors fans, it might have been a little bit of a bad look, like we were throwing stuff at them.
T-shirts at first, and then they threw something else, and that's what set him off. But
what did he say?
Well, he said he hates San Francisco, and he's real adamant that he hates San Francisco, and it's dirty, and it's this, and I don't want to go back there. So he's brought all this on himself.
Yes,
he's loving this. He's goaded the fans and talked a lot of trash about the city and this and that. So, but people need to, it's one thing if you want to talk and joke and this and that, but don't start hurling things. I mean, anytime you're starting to hurl objects, I mean, that's, we part ways right there. But you know what? Charles deserves some heat, right? Because he's been running his mouth. I mean, it's like he single-handedly has made this like a personal thing. I don't know why he takes such a strong anti-San Francisco stance, but I mean, he has crapped on San Francisco like about 10 different ways since the series began.
Yeah, I had Kristen
Ledlow all their mothers.
Yeah, he did say that off the air. And
that was not too good either.
I had his colleague Kristen Ledlow on Locked On Warriors last week, and I brought it up with her, and she thinks it's a bit. She doesn't know for sure, but she brought up the whole. Remember how like for years Chuck had that whole bit with the San Antonio women and how they're all really big. And she thinks it's a similar bit. Like it's just something to gain attention and all that. But I sense there's something there genuine too, man. Like he does have something that's legitimate in terms of a beef with the Bay Area. I don't know what it is. I would love to know what it is because I don't see him acting like this toward any other fan base or team. I was there in the 90s. Maybe you were too, Larry. Maybe you were too, Coach, where he dropped 56 and knocked out the Warriors in the first round of the playoffs. I thought he had really fond memories of the Bay Area because every time he came here, he kicked the Warriors' asses. But for some reason, like he has a beef, and I don't know what it is. But you guys, I'm dating, man.
All right, hope you feel better.
We'll let you out, but get healthy, man, and get ready for the finals.
I love you guys. Thank you. Go Warriors, man. Go Warriors.
There we go.
Right,
Sai not feeling 100% there. But what do you think? I mean, the Barkley thing is so what happened exactly? Barkley went after some fans?
We're about to see it.
Yo, they throwing stuff up here. Hey, Shark, sit down. We will be back. As a celebration.
Okay, that seemed performative, kind of. A little more.
I don't. All he did is he stood up. I didn't see anybody throw anything.
He pump faked throwing the. Oh, I think Dan.
Can we get rid of Danny?
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
So. Do we still have Steve on the line, or is he?
Yeah, we do. Steve, you're there, right?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you. So, what do you make of Barkley's San Francisco hate? I mean, does it go back to, the 55 win Warrior team in 1993 with Chris Webber and that matchup? I mean, is it that, or is it something else? I don't know, but he's obviously.
I think it's just a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing it to create some entertainment value when he's doing his show. I don't, I mean, let's remember that when the Warriors first started their run, when they made the first championship run, he predicted they had no chance of winning because a team that lives by the three will die by the three, and no 3-point shooting team will ever win an NBA championship. I mean, that's hung around his neck.
Calls them a jump shooting team. They can't win titles, and right.
Well, and then in 2019, without KD, when KD got injured, he picked the Rockets to close them out, and then he picked the Trailblazers to beat us, who then we swept.
He hasn't had
part of the whole bit. I mean, I think that he has great respect for, Thompson, Green, and Curry. He has to as an NBA player. But I think now he's an entertainer, and that's part of his bit. That's what it is.
What do you think? Go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, what do you guys think of the fact that Looney, they've been talking of, Wiseman. Now Wiseman couldn't come back. It was almost, if you're Kevon Looney, if you have any professional pride, you're like, hey, I'm here and I played every game and we got the third best record in the league and I've been the center. This idea that we're just this donut team with absolutely nothing in the middle. I would have taken offense to that. I mean, look what he did tonight in 31 minutes, plus 11, 10 points, 18 rebounds. But even more impressive than that, 4 assists. Kevon Looney has now become a nice little distributor in the half court. He's gonna give you 4 or 5 bunnies a game or open looks at threes with really, really crisp, solid passing.
He's so much a part of the chemistry, and he is a better player because of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and even Green. He knows his role. He doesn't try to force anything. He's a facilitator, and when they break down the defense and his man helps, he's there. He's ready to catch. He's ready to finish. If he can't finish, he doesn't try and force things. He throws it back out. I mean, he's really perfect for the Warriors. If he were to be on another team, I really don't think he would be as effective because his individual skill level and his perimeter skills, they're not needed on the Warriors. So he's perfect for them, and he's probably, is he a free agent after this season?
He is. Yeah. Yep.
I think he'll stay.
The Warriors. He would be smart to stay with the Warriors. Yeah. Unless he's, somebody offers some crazy money. But, NBA general managers are smart enough to know that he is who he is in the Warriors system, and he's not going to be the same in another system. And I give him credit because he, it's funny as a coach, and and I know a lot of Division I coaches, that I've met through the years. When I was a grad assistant at St. Mary's in the late '80s. I think I might even have mentioned this before, but how Randy Bennett was a grad assistant at San Diego for Hank Egan, and Mark Few was a graduate assistant for Dan Fitzgerald up at Gonzaga. So I knew, I grew up with all these guys. I might have mentioned that, but I talked to a lot of these guys, and a lot of basketball coaches are just sick of the way young American basketball players are being brought up. Because everything, they treat it like it's an individual sport. And
sure.
The whole AAU scene and parents and, the money is filtering down. The money is definitely filtering down into the high school situations. A lot of these AAU teams are funded by parents who can pay, and kids who can't play for kids whose parents can't pay, but they can play. And so, a lot of the top players are getting free rides to play in AAU and a lot of things. But my point is that everything's about what can you do for me? What can you do for my kid? And the concept of basketball being a team game is being lost on, the youth basketball in America. And I'm telling you right now, Division I coaches, Division II coaches, and even high school coaches are sick of it because, you have to break through this mentality to get kids to accept roles to play within the team. And with Kevon Looney, he's a perfect example of a guy who's accepted a role and embraced a role, and he's part of a team. And once again, you give Kerr credit, you give, Myers credit, but you also give Kevon Looney credit because he's an unselfish player who's all about helping his team win. I really am respectful for the way he's playing.
I don't think there's any coincidence that Steph Curry was, a 3-year player at Davidson, wasn't highly recruited. Yeah, his dad's Del Curry, but he had to play within a system. He wasn't like the ball dominant guy at Davidson until really his last final year. Look at Klay Thompson, couple-year player at Washington State, Draymond Green, Michigan State, Wiggins. I mean, you could say he's a guy who could have used that. Then you got a guy like Looney who came out as everybody said he would have been like a top 15 pick as a small forward. And then, his hips are so bad that he's kind of forced into this big man role, and because of his length and whatnot, and he just works so hard at it, he's, now the starting center on a finals contender. And, it really is amazing. And man, it's just crazy that, think about Steph. I don't know if there's ever going to be another player in the NBA. Maybe this is hyperbolic of me, but that will, at least American-born star that's going to stay with their team as long as Steph Curry is staying with the Warriors. It's just, it's becoming.
What did you guys think of this series from the standpoint that, you got Dallas, who doesn't have a lot of ball movement, and it's like they hand in the ball to Luka, against Golden State, has tons of ball movement, tons of body movement. It's a motion offense, guys moving off the ball. Two dramatically different styles of basketball were on display in this series. It was unique to watch it because, you're watching, there's a lot of similar sets in the NBA, and a lot of people do a lot of the same actions. But man, watching Dallas and Golden State's moving, cutting, ball movements, and sometimes that leads to turnovers, but it's also a much more, to me, it's more a fun style to watch. The Mavericks, they've got Luka, the ball in his hands, and he's kind of initiating everything from the top. What do you think of the contrasting styles? Do you think is one superior to another in your guys' minds?
Well, I'll let Coach
go ahead, Steve.
I'd like to make a point that there are times when Luka's off the floor that Dallas looks better. They share the ball more. They're more active,
or faster pace too.
They play a more faster pace, but at the same time, I still have great value for Luka as an offensive player because of his court vision. He's a great passer. I don't have a problem with Luka Doncic in any way. My problem that I see with Luka Doncic is he's just a poor defender, and he's not in great physical condition, and he wears down and he takes breaks on defense. And he hurts them on defense. If you really go back and rewatch the games in this series, he has been a defensive liability, and the Warriors take advantage of it, bringing him into screens. And he just doesn't. And he definitely needs to look at what Curry's done to his body, and other athletes. Luka Doncic at probably 23 years old, I think 24 maybe at most. He should not look like he does. He should not be tired like he is. He's going to have to make a commitment to physical conditioning if he's going to have the continued success. That's just what I see. And he's got he was an unbelievable superstar in Europe. Even they knew about him when he was 14 or 15, 16. And I have a close friend who is responsible for him. He was the lead scout, the international scout for the Mavericks. He was the one that pushed. He and Don Nelson, Don Nelson Jr.
Yep.
And my friend Tony Ronzoni. Those guys were the ones who really pushed Cuban to make that trade, because it was a big trade to move 2 spots to give up the next year's number 1 draft pick the following year. And they knew, and he knew, because he had been in Europe. He'd watched the kid grow up. He knew how good he was. But I think that I think somebody's got to get into Luka and make him get in better physical condition.
I think it's a great call. Not only that, I mean, if you look at Luka's shoulders, I mean, he it looks like he's never spent a minute in the weight room. It's like he needs to, he needs to go put on some good weight and make sure you kind of turn some of that baby fat into lean muscle and kind of redo his body a little bit going forward. I mean, he's an incredible player, but it's all based on skill. If he wants longevity in this league, he's going to have that physical fitness commitment that we're seeing from Curry. I mean, look at the difference between Curry just in the upper body development in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's worked on his body. He's a strong 6'3" now. I mean, you cannot push him around. He's got a much stronger upper body. By the way, one note on Curry, we did see him kind of roll that right ankle. Yeah. How serious do you guys think that is going forward?
I don't think it's that serious because I noticed one rebound. He skied over everybody in the paint on a defensive rebound. He pushed right off of it. I think it was a minor tweak because, he wears those ankle braces that, it wasn't a full roll. It was, he kind of, as he started to roll, it looks like he kind of, moved his body a little bit to weather the roll, so he didn't get a full. He knows how to prevent those things because when he gets those, he kind of moves his body a little bit so he doesn't give it a full on, bend it all the way like we saw Marcus Smart the other night. So I think he's fine, and then with 6-7 days of rest, he'll be fit.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. If I had a guess, I thought in the first half he didn't look, after he rolled it, I didn't think he looked quite himself. If I had a guess, and far be it for me to make these assumptions, but he probably got a little injection at halftime. It looked a little better coming out, and my guess would be that thing's going to swell up, and he'll probably.
What's the off time now before game one of the finals?
June 2nd is game one.
Next Thursday night.
So he gets a whole week basically to rest up. So, that's good news. Fable JVC said, looked like someone threw a beer on Chuck right before they went to break. Romo 2001 says off topic, but San Francisco's beginning to get a bad rap. You have this incident with Charles Barkley, and then earlier in the week, a Giants fan threw a beer at Jerks and Profar in the outfield at Oracle Park. Not a good look. Hey, it's the playoffs and people get excited, but come on. The one thing I think people got to remember is, you'll see this all over the place. Oh, it's interactive. And it's interactive. This is not. This is not interactive, and people confuse it because I'm not sure if it's because of high def TV and the images are so crystal clear that they feel like they're part of the action. I'm not really sure if that's it because we're seeing it more and more in recent years, but it's pro sports and it's not interactive. And it's never going to be interactive. So don't inject yourself. Don't get caught up in the moment and throw anything at anybody. And anytime you're talking about hurling something in a crowd, you're always potentially going to incite some form of a riot. And that kind of mayhem gets people killed, gets people seriously injured. I mean, it sounds like I'm up here as a law enforcement person, but I mean, it's just don't do it. I mean, it's like, we have seen multiple examples of people kind of, suddenly I'm mad at Charles. I'm going to throw something at Charles. I'm mad. I'm a Giants fan and the Padres are in town and people are talking back and forth to Profar and he motioned to us. Oh, I'm going to throw something at him. No, I mean, just don't. I mean, it's not interactive. Your favorite team doesn't want you to do that on their behalf. So just don't do it.
The setup, though, is, these people have been drinking for hours.
Yep, that's a big factor.
Right next to the stage, and Barkley turning and yelling at him, you suck too, or whatever.
Shaq's egging it all on.
I'm not making any excuses, but it's not a very good setup. It's a setup that I've watched these, their shows outside of these arenas. And when Barkley has agitated and said enough things about the San Francisco crowd or whatever, you know, I'm surprised only a beer was thrown in some respects because they've set themselves up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, getting back to the game tonight, when I was watching Dallas on offense, when Luka, you know, he dribbles the ball and takes, you know, down to the last second, the difference between it almost reminds me of the LeBron with the Cavaliers, but they didn't have a Kyrie, you know, to drive and do all the stuff. And so it's a little easier. That's why I picked the Warriors in 5, because they didn't have the supporting cast. They didn't have the second star that Larry was mentioning. And the other thing that the Warriors were doing tonight was specifically they were really stepping out to stop the three. They were making Dallas, if they were shooting a three, it was going to be very contested, and were almost like encouraging them to shoot the two or pull in. And when they did, Green was back there to play in center field, kind of to go straight up, and you saw Dallas take it to the hoop and miss many layups because of the defense of Green or Wiggins. Even Klay was in there. So I think the defensive plan tonight was they didn't want to see a repeat of Game 4, and they came out and really played their game to put Dallas away as quick as possible to not let them be in the game. I never felt the game was in danger, even when they got it down to 8.
I didn't either. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, by the way, we've got Jaguayo 56 donating $5. He says, Krug, where would the Dubs be without Kevon Board Master Looney? I think something that is distinctive about the Dubs is the unselfish attitude. Go Dubs. I just think, you know, it's funny. We were talking about Looney before, Steve, and the one thing about Looney that's so great to watch, and it's like almost every big man should study this guy, is he understands the economy of movement, right? I mean, his body is almost always in a perfect position. He extends so many plays, tipping balls to himself, tipping balls to teammates. He doesn't command, you know, a lot of touches. So he's probably a fun guy, an easy guy to play with. And to me, the thing about Looney that I love the most is that he can block shots on the perimeter, but then his ability to position his body in the in between intermediate area to close out on perimeter shooters, he's good at that as well. His timing is really good. He's now developing as a passer. You know, it's funny when you talk to Steve Kerr, he's got total confidence in Kevon Looney. He calls him Loon, but Looney's high basketball IQ is a perfect blend with this team, because they're asking him to do a number of different things and react on the fly to do those things. And his reaction time, he always reads the play correctly. He always seems like he's cognizant of where they are in the shot clock. I mean, he stays within himself. He doesn't try to do too much. He's just a really, really effective player.
I mean, you could almost say he's a poor man's Dennis Rodman, because Rodman stayed within him. As you know, I'm not Rodman off the court aside, none of that. I'm talking about Rodman as a basketball player was a great team player. I mean, you know, I sometimes scratch my head when I think about Dennis Rodman being in Springfield, Massachusetts, that he's in, you know, the Basketball Hall of Fame. But as a player, you know, Rodman was a special player, and Rodman's a better athlete than Looney. He's more explosive, and he's got better jumping ability, longer arms, different things. But Looney doesn't draw a lot of attention to himself. He's just, you know, when the shots go up, he knows when these shots are going to go up, and he is quick to get position on the offensive boards. And a lot of times he'll have inside position that normally a defensive rebounder would have. He goes to it and gets it quickly because he's not looking to do anything but play his role.
Yeah, and his ability to not have such a good vertical, honestly, in a series like this where, Luka's just trying to get guys up in the air. I mean, we saw Jaren Jackson in the previous series. That guy was so quick to foul and, get in the air and get fouled out. Looney just doesn't leave the ground in a way versus a guy like that crafty like Luka. It was a huge benefit to have him out there guarding him.
If they play Boston.
Yeah, I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah.
What you see.
Well, I think your guy who's a Warrior guy that was on before, and
Cyrus, yeah.
Hopefully he feels better. But look, Jason Tatum is a special player, and he's maturing and growing, and he's on the way up. And in some respects, because he's a two-way player, I'm not going to try to compare him to Luka Doncic and but as a coach, I would take Jason Tatum because I'm getting a two-way player and I'm getting a guy who can do things on the defensive end. And his upside is still there. Jaylen Brown, the 1 year at Cal, and and now he's starting to really come into his own. Horford, Marcus Smart is an unbelievable competitor, tough guy. When he rolled his ankle the other night, I thought he was done. I mean, unless he's got double jointed.
That was some Willis Reed stuff.
There. It was a terrible ankle sprain. And he came back out and competed. He hit a three in a corner. I mean, look, Boston is, they had that slow start but they had the best record from a certain point of the season. It might have been January or whatever, but they had the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, it was from All-Star break on.
Yeah. It's going to be a great series. And look, Miami would be a tough matchup too. They're great, but I think that Boston's a more dangerous team for the Warriors than Miami is, and I predict Boston will play the Warriors. It's just my opinion, and I think it'll be a great series between the two teams.
It's funny. The Warriors this year we had Larry Harris on a few weeks ago. And by the way, guys, Larry Harris said to us at the end of that interview, I said, hey, Larry, we'd love to have you back on. He said, I'll come back. I'll come back if we make it to the finals.
There we go.
He said, I'll come back if we make it to the finals. So I'll be calling Ray Ritter later tonight and saying, Ray, we want Larry Harris back. He said he'd come back for the finals.
That's Dell's son, right? Del Harris' son?
Yeah, Del Harris' son. And who's I think he's maybe the best scout the Warriors have. But I wanted to ask you because, the Warriors this year understood that if they were going to go young in the draft, and they knew they had the 2 lottery picks, and they took 2 19-year-olds. So they made sure that, every night they had a team that was representative and ready to go at 7 o'clock. But then at 5 o'clock, they were out on the floor working their guys. And they hired that Serbian coach who had coached Jokic. And, GTC Real says, I think the Serbian coach they have is gold. Dude's really good at teaching Olajuwon post moves. You see it on Kuminga. You see it on Kevon Looney. But I think beyond just Kuminga and Looney, also, Moses Moody, James Wiseman, Jordan Poole. I think Golden State understood that if they were going to take this kind of long-range view of their team as far as, staying with the young players instead of trading them all away for a veteran, that they were going to need to develop those players as the season went on. And the combination of the G League at Santa Cruz and their 5 o'clock workouts with this new Serbian coach, and they had another developmental coach or two that they added to their roster. I think his name's Dejan Milovic. Ranger 44 weighs in on the chat and says, Dejan Milovic, it's great. He's worked with Jokic as well. But I mean, that I think was a big key to this season because their players have developed. And they've developed their young players on the back end of their roster. And now here we are. It's almost June. And they're leaning on guys like Kuminga and Moody and obviously Jordan Poole. And they're getting great minutes out of those guys.
Excellent point. I mean, for them to get as much out of Moody and Kuminga as they have. I mean, Gary Payton Jr., didn't he spend a number of years in the development league?
He's like 28.
Yeah, he's older. He was at Oregon State, and I love the way he plays. I mean, Gary Payton Jr. is the kind of player that coaches absolutely love, because he's smart, he's tough, he does all of the little things, and I think he should be a valuable asset for the Warriors in the future.
And they might get him back, Steve. They might get GP2 back for the finals.
Yeah, that would be great. That would help them.
Oh, they're going to need him especially with Boston. I mean, Boston is tough, and I think I'm not picking the Warriors in 5 in that series.
No.
Why don't we do that? Actually, why don't we start? I'm going to pull the box score off the printer, but give me your thoughts on a prediction on what this series could look like. Let's just say it is Warriors Celtics. Give us a prediction. I'll be right back.
Well, you know what, Coach? I would love to ask you an X's and O's question, because I'm sure you've been watching the Celtics throughout the playoffs and throughout, since they've gotten hot around the All-Star break. And Rob Williams has just been unbelievable. Guy's like 6'7". He moves around quickly, sort of like a Draymond Green, but he's got a standing reach that puts him 4 inches higher than Anthony Davis. So the guy's just an elite shot blocker, and he's Bam Adebayo is afraid to go in to the rim versus that guy. And the thing I'm worried about is like the new age of doing things like the Luka way, the LeBron way. It's like they drive into the paint, everyone collapses on them, they kick it out for threes, right? And the Warriors kind of do it the opposite way, where they start with the threes and the threat of the threes, and that's what opens up all these, layups and wide open dunks for Looney and whatnot. But when you have a guy in there like Rob Williams, and we saw it a little bit in the Memphis series where Jaren Jackson, Steven Adams, they had big bodies in there that were affecting their 2-pointers, and they were really able to stay home and sell out on all the threes. Like, if you were like coaching the Warriors, like what would you do strategy wise to try and negate a guy like Rob Williams, who just seems like he is maybe the best rim protector in the NBA outside of Gobert?
Well, I mean, let's not forget about the mid-range game. I mean, all of the guys like, Curry can get into the lane with the pull-up jump shot. Thompson Wiggins has got a great, they do have players that don't have to get to the rim to score. Mm-hmm. And, you may have to respect Williams. I agree with you. He is a tremendous presence. Hasn't he been hurt? Wasn't he hurt last game? He wasn't at full strength.
So he's got an he's got an MCL issue that, I mean, when he's played, it hasn't looked like he's had an issue, but it's kind of like a game-to-game thing where, it's every other day. And I think he skipped one game because he just wasn't feeling right. But my guess would be he's going to be close to 100% by the time the finals, just because there's so much time off.
Yeah, if he's fully healthy, he presents a problem, like you talked about Adams and the other young player at Memphis. But I do think the Warriors' offensive skill in the mid-range game, which a lot of players don't have. Yeah. A lot of the mid-range game has kind of disappeared, and so they may be able to get and attack the rim when he's in there. If he's healthy, there's no doubt he's a factor. It's a great point you bring up.
Okay, yeah, and the thing I'd worry about is just, I hope that they're not afraid to take those twos, because I just don't want to see them settling for all these threes. Guys like Jordan Poole, who, you see him like he's so quick, he's so good at getting to the basket. And he's great at shooting mid-range twos as well. And it's like that's how when these guys aren't hitting from three, there's going to be games where the Warriors are just going to make all their threes. But when they're not, it's important to get those twos. And whether it's a mid-range or a layup, I just really hope that they don't settle.
No, they won't. They won't. I mean, especially if the perimeter defenders and I don't mean to, we're going to look really foolish if Miami comes back and wins 2 games. So, but if they do play Boston, if you're going to, when you have to guard the perimeter, and the way the game has changed now, because everything's about freedom of movement, I mean, if you go back to the NBA in the 70s and even in the 80s and even in the 90s when guys could guard with their forearm and they could get a hip on you and you weren't called for fouls. But now any kind of hand check or bumping, because they want, for television, they want more offense, they want more movement, they want more entertainment. So freedom of movement, along with the players, like when they were playing Memphis, they allowed Ja Morant to terminate his dribble. I mean, he would stop his dribble. They would call it carrying or whatever. But they would allow him to carry the ball.
Yeah.
And key time. And so if you combine allowing a guy to carry the ball along with you can't, contact with these guys would become impossible to stop. You can't stop them from getting into the paint. But with the Warriors, Poole, Curry, and even Thompson, even Wiggins, they're four guys that are really two-way players. They have great shooters, but they can also put it on the deck and get into the paint area. I think that anybody's going to have a hard time guarding them. Yeah. And if they want to really extend their defense and they want to really extend out, the Warriors will be able to drive. But they may be forced to take more mid-range shots if the kid Williams is healthy and effective.
It is a really good Boston team. The one thing they do is they keep the floor spread, and they got a bunch of guys with size who can shoot it. I mean, Tatum, I think, is just an awesome player. Now, he's got a bum shoulder. He's wincing. If you've watched him, I mean, that's the other thing here, Coach, is that it's truly a war of attrition. This is not – the Celtics team is limping towards the finish line as well. I mean, Miami's more beat up, but Tatum's not 100%. Brown's not 100%. Smart's not 100%. Williams is not 100%. I mean, literally, Horford is probably the healthiest player on their team right now. 36. But Tatum is so good. I mean, I saw him drive in the last game and put one high off the glass on an arcing shot early on, and I'm like, wow, it's a high percentage. That's a low percentage shot. He made it look easy. It's a guard type play. He's at 6'10", 6'9", 6'10", doing that kind of stuff. He's incredible. The guy that worries me for Boston is Horford, because Horford is such a good player. He's playing at a really high level. He had 16, 7, and 5 in 39 minutes in the last game. Williams is a big man for sure. He can close out on 3-point shooters as well. He's got great length. But then Boston, whether it's Grant Williams or Pritchard or White or Nesmith, I mean, they got guys who can shoot the perimeter ball, and they keep the floor spread, and they've got size. I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge, and foul trouble is staying out of foul trouble for Draymond and Steph. It's going to be huge in this thing. I think the Warriors, if they can stay out of foul trouble, have a decided advantage. I think they're fresher, healthier, and playing at a little bit higher level right now. But man, I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out, 6-gamer for sure.
Yeah, I don't think.
Like it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say I don't think that. Oh, sorry.
It's always about playing. It's always about playing your best at the right time,
right? And
peaking at the right time. And the Warriors really seem to be coming together. I mean, they seem to be each series they've gotten better. They got by Denver because Denver had all their players were hurt. Murray and Porter and all they had to do really was worry about Jokic. And then, the whole deal with Memphis, they had their ups and downs. But I think the Warriors are getting healthier and they're hitting their stride at the right time. And probably so is Boston if they do play Boston. But it'll be a great series. But, if they have a break of a week or so to get healthy, these professional, athletic trainers and all of the medical help that is now at the professional level, they can work on these guys, for days at a time to get them healthy. It's amazing the medical improvement now in professional sports.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. You want to jump in too? Go ahead.
If we're looking at the chat right now, they're really talking about Boston's this is a hilarious thing to say about such a good team, but they really cannot dribble. as a team. I mean, Marcus Smart is their de facto point guard, and he's been much better this year, but I think it's going to be really important to have Gary Payton II back for this series because they will give the ball up. Boston will give the ball up because they really have a tough time controlling the ball under pressure, especially if there's Wiggs and GP out there. And I think that's going to be super important because if we can force them to put a guy like Pritchard out there, who is a great shooter, but another ball handler, my worry is, unlike the Harden Rockets or Memphis or some of these great switching defenses that we've played, we haven't played a defense where everybody can switch. There's no weak link. There's no Ja Morant. There's no James Harden. They have Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford / Grant Williams, and Rob Williams. All those guys can switch. There's not a single defensive liability amongst that group. And I think it's really important to try and force them to put a Nesmith or a Pritchard or somebody else out there that's it allows for us to have like kind of a weak link on defense.
That's a great call. I think also look at tonight's ball game from Golden State's perspective, assists to turnovers, 36 assists and 10 turnovers. That's a great ratio right there.
Wow.
And 4 or 5 of those turnovers, or at least 4, came in garbage time, kind of when Poole was dribbling through, the last 2 minutes and giving the ball up, goes out of bounds, throwing one away. They had 3 or maybe 4, somewhere around 4 in the last 2 minutes when all the guys came in. Yeah. So they were really taking care of the ball tonight. And you've noticed that was – I kind of predicted that in the beginning of this series coming off Memphis. I said Kerr not actually being able to coach, having to watch the disastrous – turnovers on TV while he's watching his team with COVID. I said that they're going to make a point of emphasis of just run the offense, stop trying to make all the cute passes. And a lot of it was due to Memphis's length. And when they would try and do a backdoor cuts and stuff, those long arms of Memphis would cause guys to lead them too far or throw it over their heads. So it is going to be a lot more difficult, Boston or Miami, than Dallas. I think Dallas, you and I, Larry, called it in 5. We thought this was a lot easier series based on the matchups than what the national pundits were all saying.
People got caught up in that last round against, Phoenix, and they looked at, look at Dallas. That was about Phoenix. That was not about Dallas. That was about Phoenix. And Dallas was there to pick up the pieces, but Phoenix was coming apart. The Warriors, as Coach aptly described, they're playing their best ball. They're starting to play at a really, really high level. 36 assists tonight, 10 turnovers. They're playing at a really, really high level. Golden State's coming together. Pee Wee 77 says the Warriors have been in the finals. They've got the experience. They know all about the pressure. So it won't be like, hey, Golden State gets to the finals and oh man, the pressure gets to them. Guys, this is Golden State's 6th trip to the finals in the last 8 years. Where do you put this Warrior dynasty? Because it is a dynasty. When you go to the finals 6 times in 8 years, that's a dynasty. In my opinion, they should have 4 titles. They have 3. But we all know what happened with Green and LeBron in that one year. Where do you put this Warrior dynasty up against the great dynasties that we've seen? I mean, the six trips to the finals in an 8-year span has not been done in the NBA since Jordan's Bulls. Is this the best dynasty in the league? Was that it? I mean, obviously the Celtics in the 60s, 50s and 60s, they cannot be, those numbers are in the stratosphere, 11 titles and
teams in the league, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was a different time, but where do you guys put this Warrior dynasty? Because clearly it's a dynasty.
I'll let you guys go because I'm the young guy here.
I would personally, I think the Bulls is the top, the 6 titles of the 2 3-peats of, because they didn't lose one finals. They won all 6. So to me, the Bulls in this modern era would be the number 1. And I would put, the Warriors right up there with the Showtime Lakers of the 80s.
Who basically was kind of a dual monarchy between the Lakers and the Celtics there in the 80s. And the Lakers wound up with 3, and the Celtics wound up with 3, something like that. Wasn't it 86 Celtics?
Celtics had 3. I think the Lakers won 5, maybe?
Well, I know Kobe won 5.
Well, the Lakers also won in 2000. They won 3 in a row.
They won 3 in a row in 2000, in the 2000s,
that was
with Kobe and Shaq.
Different group than the 80s, obviously.
The 80s Lakers won in like 84, 87, 88, something like that, or 84, 87, 80. Yeah, I think that was it, 88.
Yeah.
Those Laker teams, it's funny. They showed Bob McAdoo in the stands the other night, and young basketball fans don't remember McAdoo. And even I only saw McAdoo at the end. I didn't see McAdoo, doing his thing early on. But an old, those Lakers teams in the 80s, one of them there had McAdoo. So you had Worthy, you had Magic, you had Kareem on the block, and then you had McAdoo, who was like any shot from the free throw line or top of the key, it was just down. It was like a layup for him. It was amazing the percentage that he would hit from that part in the floor. And everybody kind of did their thing. They had Michael Cooper shutting people down. They had Byron Scott shooting the ball off the break. Some of those teams had Jamal Wilkes, the earlier 80s Lakers teams.
Clay's dad, Michael Thompson
was on those teams as well.
Norm
Kurt
Nixon
Rambis from Santa Clara was on those teams.
Rebel 444 says 80, 82, 85, 87, 88.
Okay, yeah. Who said that?
Rebel 444.
Yeah, there you go. 80, 82, 85, 87, 88, 5. Okay. That's right. 80 with Magic against the Sixers, 42 points, 14 rebounds, whatever it was, 7 assists, game 7, stepping in for Kareem. And then they won 82, 85. I think the Celtics won in 84 and 86. Lakers came back in 87 and then, won again in 88.
Where do you have the Warriors, Larry?
I would say the Warriors are beneath the Showtime Lakers, but
and Chicago.
But yeah, I'd have Chicago up top, and then I'd have the Lakers, and then I'd have the Warriors.
The only thing I can say as a young guy is just I can definitively in my brain, just from the discourse I've heard from everybody that I would listen to that's older than me, like I don't think that we're ever going to see a team better than the 2017 Warriors. I think that is the pinnacle of basketball, how good you can be. And I say this because for 3 straight years, even though they didn't win the last one because of injuries, people just said our championships didn't count because our team was so good that it was cheating, that it was automatic we were going to get there. So, I don't know if that is ever going to happen again in the history of the NBA. It was a foregone conclusion. They were minus money at the beginning of every year.
And in some ways, it's funny that you said that. I agree with you that was an incredible team, maybe the best team ever. But there's something about, I don't know. Maybe it's just because the things went south with Kevin Durant. But, a lot of people talking about, would you like to have Durant back? I just thought the last try with Durant was such a joyless endeavor. It just felt like
that's what the part of it felt like. It was work. So joyless because it was it's just it doesn't even count.
Nothing was ever good enough. You win by 10. Why didn't you win by 15? You win by 15. Why didn't you win by 20? You turned it on for 3 quarters. Why didn't you play hard for 4 quarters? It was it seemed like by the end, the whole feel and vibe of that group had grown stale, and the joy was gone. That's what I'm saying. This year's team, and I think it's largely because of Moody and Kuminga and Poole and Wiseman, the young group. There was just kind of a joyousness about Golden State this year. Then add the unbelievable shutdown defensive effort of Gary Payton, and I think that fueled the team at times this year. It's actually, this year is pretty amazing, guys, when you think about how much time Klay Thompson missed, how much time Steph missed, how much time time Draymond missed. And yet they had the third best record in the league. And here we are, approaching June, and they're probably going to be favored to win it all in a few
played
days.
like 1 minute together, like the whole year.
Yeah.
Playoffs.
That's pretty incredible that they had the kind of regular season that they had.
And I think they are peaking. I mean, you look at the Warriors, Klay, he didn't play the first 40 games. So he's peaking physically. This is like not even being in a full season. This is like maybe like how many games did they play? 5, 6, and 5. So they've played 16 playoff games. And he played 40 games in the regular season?
32 games.
That was it? Oh, yeah, because he didn't play back-to-backs. So 32 plus 6, he's played 48 games. And when they were on their run, they were playing 100 games because of the deep runs in the playoffs, plus 82. And Curry missed, 10, 15 games at the end of the season?
Right.
And then Draymond missed 2 months. He missed about 30-plus games.
Yeah.
So Draymond played 46 games.
Yeah.
Look at Draymond's stats for tonight too, because I think we would all say maybe that was Klay's best game of the series, and the most the most like Klay he's looked like.
Very efficient game for Draymond.
Yeah, Draymond played a very good game.
7,
tonight.
1 for 1 from 3, 17 points.
And look at their free throws tonight. Look at
their
free throws. What were they?
16 for 16.
Yeah, and that's been a kind of a sore spot for them, most of the year. So to see Wiggins hit his free throws and Green hit his free throws was great. But I really think that these guys are fresh. This is the first championship run that they're actually freshest, even fresher than their first one.
Well, in a lot of ways, it's strength in numbers part 2. Because look at the depth. Look at the depth of this team. Jaguayo 56 donates a couple bucks. Says, Krug, I wonder what Durant thinks about this Dubs run. I would be interested to hear his thoughts as well, because he's a basketball historian. He's a smart basketball player. I wonder if he has any reservations or second thoughts or regrets, or do you think he's just like, moved on, not looking back? I mean, the thing about KD is he went to 3 different high schools. So once you've gone to 3 high schools in a 4-year span, you've got that kind of nomad aspect to your life. And, how most people go to 1 high school. To go to 3 high schools. Maybe some people want to stay, in one relationship their whole life. Other people get married 7 times. You know what I mean? So maybe he's just the kind of guy that he wants to keep it moving. He wants 2 years here, 3 years there, always wanting a new challenge. I can understand. And if you're not from here, we love it here because we're from here. But if you're not from here, I could see where you could be like, all right, did that, been there, done it. I want to try something new. I mean, he it's not like he didn't have success here. He had ultimate success.
I was gonna kind of chip in my thoughts about the different teams and the different eras. But
yeah, what did you think?
One little note about Durant, maybe when he was here, he was with all the tech companies and everything. From what I understood, he was getting involved with investments here that were able to have him in almost in transformational type wealth kind of thing that the Bay Area offered him a lot of opportunities. I think maybe he might have some regrets about that, also he had to be tremendously frustrated being a teammate with Kyrie Irving. That had to be frustrating for him, I would think. But anyhow, my perspective on all of these different eras is that they are different eras, and that it's really, if you were to go back and watch games in the 60s, because you can watch old highlights of Bill Russell, and the game was so different. They had 2 officials. There was not a lot of physical contact at the time. And then, of course, the 70s came along, and when the Warriors had Rick Barry and they made their championship run, there was no 3-point line. Rick Barry would have been an amazing 3-point shooter. But each team that had great runs, whether it was the Bulls during their era, You could even probably count the Pistons. Obviously, the Lakers had two great eras of running with Shaq, and then later on with Gasol and Kobe when they were later on. But I just think that the 60s, obviously the Celtics, the 70s was a unique time for the NBA. It was really in transition. They had a lot of problems. I don't know if there was any great teams that stood out in the 70s that much.
Bullets and the Sonics went to did they go to back-to-back finals there in the 77, 78, somewhere there?
Yeah, with
Just Williams, Jack Sikma, Lenny Wilkins, that group, Lonnie Shelton. Bullets had Unseld and Elvin Hayes. When the three-point line first came into the NBA, there weren't a lot of shots taken. They almost looked at it as like a gimmick deal, and there was nobody. Now, Steph comes across half court and takes one or two dribbles, and he's shooting shots from 40 feet away, and nobody's even thinking that's a big deal because it's not anymore. And Steph Curry has transformed the game of basketball. So I think the Warriors are in their own era that they've created, that Steph has created, and that the Warriors and the three-point shooting, now everybody's copying them. It's because, remember, when Detroit overtook Boston, Lakers,
the great Larry Bird.
Oh, okay. When they beat the Bulls in the East.
Yeah, they were literally, they were like brawls. It was basketball. It was unbelievable.
Bad boy Pistons, right? Lambeer and Mahorn.
And then they were beating up. Michael Jordan. And then
Jordan rules, right?
Yep. And then Jordan and the Bulls overcame Detroit, and they had their run, and it was an amazing run. And obviously it was fatiguing to Michael Jordan after 3 years, and he took the 2 years off, and then he comes back and wins 3 more. It's really hard to compare anybody to Michael Jordan, in my opinion. And, when they were all on the same page, you got to think about what a great coach Phil Jackson was to win 6 championships with, and then turn around and win 5 with the Lakers. It's just unbelievable. Him and Tex Winter, and other parts of that staff that they had but to me, this last era we're talking about, the last 8 years and the run, the Warriors have transformed the game of basketball, and they own this era, just like the Bulls owned their era, just like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson owned their era. I don't know because the rules have changed.
Right. Totally different game. Now you have freedom of movement.
Yeah, it's a different game. And more kids are coming up, better shooters. Even look at college, when they first did the three-point line, the ACC did a trial, I remember back, and it was like 17 feet. It was actually, the arc was shorter than the top of the key when the ACC did the three-point line as a trial back whenever. And then, of course, it was the top of the key, so it was 19 feet 9 inches. And, now college, the three-point line has moved back 3 feet from when it originally started back in 1986. It was introduced to college basketball in 1986. And, it has obviously transformed the game. And the idea of the three-point line and the value of it was to spread the defense to allow more attacking of, it's just all entertainment value and the whole deal for television. And that's what it really is about now.
So what do you think of Kendrick Perkins' comments this week? Said if the Warriors win another title and Steph gets MVP of the finals, he not only forget top 10, he becomes on the Mount Rushmore. What do you think of that comment by Perkins, that Steph would be considered on the Mount Rushmore of basketball for what he's done?
Well, it's hard. I mean,
who else is there? I mean, let's talk about Mount Rushmore. You got 4. So who's on that 4? MJ. You got to put Chamberlain there, right? No. What? You're not putting Chamberlain there?
No, it'd be MJ, LeBron,
those two.
Kareem, and then X. Bill Russell? I don't know.
I don't know, guys. You look at all the greatest records of dominance. Chamberlain's all over all of it. I mean, how do you not have Chamberlain?
He's had 4 for a long time. I've heard him before. Who are they, Steve?
So my 4 have been Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Larry Bird. Okay, those were the 4 I had for a long time. And most recently, when I look at the longevity and everything about LeBron that he's done. And LeBron, I don't know why people have given him a bad rap for different times, but I mean, he comes into the league out of high school and he has never had any problems. He's respected the game. He's a respecter of the history of the game. I have the utmost respect for LeBron James's career and how he's handled himself. And I have now added LeBron James to that 5. Now,
who'd you take off?
Curry.
Well, yeah, wait. I've got a big question, Steve.
My front line is Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James, backcourt Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson. That is a pretty tight 5. I don't know.
Okay, so we're not going. We're not.
Coach. As a kid who's 26 years old, right? Well, I'm not a kid, but like I didn't see these guys play. My biggest question, and this was like a big point for me, like especially when KD and Steph were together, and everybody was saying that was unfair. I just always wondered like how it is that Kareem and Magic, like it's okay for there to be like 2 of the top 5 players of all time on the same exact team. And it's like when in my mind, I see like Steph as Magic and KD as Kareem. But like, I don't understand how you could have 2 of those on the Mount Rushmore,
Well, I mean, Kareem won his rookie year, he won the NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And he was with Oscar Robertson. And then I don't know how Milwaukee made a trade for what they did, but
right. That was the worst trade ever.
Worst trade ever. And, and then of course, later in his career, because Kareem had been in Los Angeles for a long time, when in 79, they drafted Larry Bird went to the Celtics but Magic ended up going to the Lakers. And, that's why the Lakers were just so great. And
they ripped off Cleveland for Worthy. Don't forget that. I mean,
I always didn't understand where it was like, okay,
we're Ted Stepien rule that you can't trade all those picks in back-to-back years. They did. Cleveland did.
That's what I didn't understand is like, just as a guy who wasn't there, I didn't understand how we can like say, oh, this like KD Steph team, like that's unfair and like that's like cheating, where it's like the Warriors drafted all of those guys and then added 1 free agent, where it's like, okay, but then we're all going to celebrate the Magic, Kareem, Lakers, and we're all going to just agree that Kareem and Magic were top 5 guys.
Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, people were just jealous of the whole thing when Durant went to the Warriors. But
sure,
I mean,
that's all that was.
There were so many other teams. I mean, look at what Miami did with with Ray Allen and Chris Bosh and LeBron. I mean, everybody's done it. I mean, Pierce did it with Garnett at Boston. I mean, these guys all talk, and and they all line up the end of their contracts when they line up, and we're going to go together. It's a players' league, and so a lot of these things are talked about in the off season and these friendships that they have. But Durant's decision to go play for the Warriors was a lot of it was he was frustrated, playing with Westbrook.
For sure.
Because Westbrook is hard to play with.
Well, he knew he couldn't beat the Warriors, so it was like, hey, let's join the Warriors.
Well, okay, I'll throw a challenge flag on that though, because they easily could have beat the Warriors. Like that Durant folded in those final couple games.
Hey,
like
coulda, woulda, shoulda. Didn't. Had an opportunity and did not.
Yeah.
And then that's where he took the heat, was because the team that ousted him, he joined. That's where a lot of people were like, hey, why are you doing this? But he got his rings and the Warriors got their rings and everything worked out. But it's funny that, the Mount Rushmore thing, there's just so many great players. It's really very difficult to different eras. I mean, how do you take Larry Bird off? I'll say one thing.
Off, right?
I'll tell you, no, I wouldn't take him off. I mean, Larry Bird, nobody authored the bigger turnaround in the history of the NBA from what the Celtics were without Bird to the next year the Celtics were with Bird. Look it up. I think it was like a 63-game turnaround.
Okay, but they had two other top 75 all-time players.
Yeah, but Bird made them. I mean, Bird made them better. I mean, Larry Bird was a tremendous player. I mean, he was a bad man. I mean,
if we're talking decades, so who was the best player of their era?
Well, I think Larry Bird was a combination of Draymond Green and Steph Curry.
Who would you have put? Who would you put between Magic and Bird?
I'd probably ultimately go with Magic because Magic was a little, he got over in the title game. He also won more of those head-to-head matchups. He was on some better teams, but Bird's back ultimately failed him. But I mean, Larry Bird was a spectacular player. Who the thing about it now, I think it's interesting that we're talking about Bird because think about Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green is like the essential figure for Golden State. Now, you could say it's Steph, and of course, anybody would agree. But I just don't think Golden State wins any of those things without Draymond Green. I think he's the insane competitor. I think Michael was an insane competitor. I think Bird was an insane competitor. To me, it's like if you go look at the great teams in the last 40 years in the NBA, you're going to find there was somebody on that team, and it maybe was the best player like Bird, but maybe it was like the second or third best player like a Draymond who was just so committed to winning. If you want to go back to like baseball in the 50s, Billy Martin, they said was just such a winner. And I just really believe that, there are guys, not everybody cares about winning at the same level. And guys like Bird and Green reminds me so much of Bird. Green won't hit that many perimeter shots, but he'll hit a dagger three. He'll play huge in the biggest moments. He'll make the smart basketball play time and time again. And you can feel like the same way you could feel the will of Michael Jordan coming through the TV, you could feel the will of Larry Bird. And guys, at times, I think I can feel the will of Draymond Green. And to me, those guys, when you're that level of a winner, I think it bleeds through. I think a lot of people would argue that Draymond has been along for the ride and that he's just he's the luckiest guy in the world to have all these, that he's going to have a lucky Hall of Fame resume. I don't look at that at all. I think he's the key cog. Guys, how do you coach, you especially, but I want all three of your guys' opinions here. How do you guys view the importance of Green and that insanely competitive gene that he has?
Well, there's no doubt he is the ultimate competitor of his era. But once again, it's almost like Kevon Looney in that he knows how to play team basketball. He fits so well when he was playing, even with Harrison Barnes. He always is fit in. And when he tries to do too much, he's not a very good player. And I'm not even sure that if he was not on the Warriors, he would not have the same kind of career he's having.
We saw that the year when Steph was out, like without
not very good.
Yeah, without the idea, the prospect of winning a championship, Draymond's not quite that guy.
Steph needs Draymond, and Draymond needs Steph. They really do, because the two of them together are really unbeatable in a way. But separately, we talk about Bird and Magic, they could take over a game. Steph can take over a game if he's, with his driving and with his three-point shot, but he can't take a game over like those guys were because of his size.
Oh, come on, Dan. You're preaching to the wrong choir here.
No, I'm saying if he doesn't have a Draymond out there, he can't do what a Magic could do on his own, or a Bird, because those guys, Magic could post you up. He could just back you down at 6'9", and he could back you down. Bird could do the same thing or shoot the three.
I mean, what? Okay, Dan, I'm sorry. What I'll say about Steph Curry is like he's doing the same thing he was doing at Davidson. Like he almost took that Davidson team to the finals. Like he lost to Kansas by 2 in the Elite Eight.
But I think what he's saying is like sometimes Steph can free himself up in the half court. But if you watch him now, Rye, he sometimes can free himself up in the half court, but sometimes he really now needs Draymond with a quick pass and a quick pass back to free himself up. So he pounds the dribble, he throws to Draymond, a little give and go, creates a little space. Draymond hits him immediately in his open space, and boom, that shot's down. I think that's what Danny's talking about. But that I agree with Rye that it wasn't that long ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, where Steph could do that on his own, just on the handle, moving in and out. But now, because of all the years, and he's 32, sometimes he needs Green to kind of free him up a little bit, either with a pick. More times than not, it's just like I dribble to a corner. Do we have Steve back there?
We got him back.
Now there's times where he needs Draymond to just a little give and go to free himself up when he runs into problems, and they play off of each other so expertly.
Yeah. They need each other.
Kerr's put a lot of plays in. Kerr has put a lot of plays in where they do a lot of flare type screens or fake screens, like ghost screens, and a lot of handoff situations. And even tonight, Curry comes off like Green's going to give him the handoff, and then Green turns and takes it to the basket and gets a 3-point play. So they're not relying on Curry so much to do the one-on-one stuff. He still could do it. He still does it, but there's more player movement. There's more ball movement. It's not as much one-on-one as it used to be. Curry is unique in his own way. I mean, his development, I can remember watching at St. Mary's the NIT game when Davidson came out, and I was at the game.
Yeah, I was at the game too.
Somebody asked me, I thought to myself, and I looked at Steph, and I saw him, and I made the mistake where I thought, well, Mills is going to be a better player. He's just stronger.
Yeah.
Curry is still, I think just recently when he got into his 30s, he hit his physical prime. He was a late bloomer. And with his work ethic, he's had a tremendous career, and I think he's got many, a number of years in front of him. There's never been a player like Steph Curry.
No.
I mean, really, look, I can remember watching Pete Maravich. Okay, I watched Pete Maravich. I've seen films of him. And when I was young in the 70s as a high school player, I idolized Pete Maravich. And nobody's been like, trust me, Pete Maravich was very special. But Steph, being like a greyhound athlete, because he's fast and he can stop. He's got great balance. He can stop on the dime. He can shoot off balance. He's created kind of his own, like Bill Russell had his own style. Wilt Chamberlain had his own style. Larry Bird, all of these guys. I can't remember anybody like Steph. I mean, people could say Isaiah Thomas, okay? But Isaiah Thomas could not shoot like Steph. Nobody.
Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, maybe.
You're right. He was a kind of a poor man's version of Steph. But
Mark Price, maybe a Mark Price a little bit.
Yeah, the point I wanted to make about Larry Bird, the injuries. I mean, Bird played in great pain a lot. I mean, and even pushed to the brink of his back injuries, like Larry brought up, really shortened up his number of years of what he could have done. But Larry Bird in his prime,
spectacular.
He was spectacular. I mean, Kevin Durant, spectacular. Obviously, Kevin Durant's longer, and he can play above the rim more. But Larry Bird's ability to pass, see the floor. But let's take a look at that starting five. Danny Ainge, great competitor. Dennis Johnson, who won an NBA championship with Jack Sikma when he was up at Seattle his rookie year. And then you take a look at Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and of course Larry Bird. An unbelievable starting five. And
yeah, but I mean, I'll push back and say those Indiana State Sycamores weren't too dominating outside of Bird, and they wound up in the national championship game. I hear you though about the Celtics. Heck, the Warriors had a big hand in that in the JB, Ricky Brown, Mikhail Parrish trade. That set them up perfectly, and God knows what they would have won if Len Bias hadn't overdosed on draft night in '86. That would have been special. Hey, Steve, let us jump here because we're going to pay the bills and clear the chat. But hey, man, we love getting your thoughts. You're a basketball savant, and you're always, the same way Danny's always welcome after any of the games. You're always welcome to join us after any of these games, especially in the finals. We'd love to have you back. I mean, you're a wealth of information and a great historian and a great guy to talk ball with. So please do come back, and thanks for giving us your breakdown tonight, man.
Thank you for having me on. You guys, anytime, let me know, and I'll come on. Thank you so much.
We'd love to have you, Steve Coach Emilio. Thanks, Coach. Have a great night. We appreciate it. Okay,
he doesn't know anything.
Yeah, that guy. That guy's just been a thorn in Danny's side for years and years. Thank God he's out of here. All right, now Kevin F is donating $2. He says, "What is the best post-game late night eats in the East Bay?" All right, as we ponder that, and as people fill up the chat with their options as far as what exactly is the best late night eats in the East Bay, let's pay the bills right here, courtesy of Telmetrics.co and Dan Coach Emilio. Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use Telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number, 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Coach Emilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. Who's at the door, Ryan?
One quick thing out there on the ad. As of tomorrow, we got a 12% bonus available instead of 10%. So people who've lost some money in the market want to get a 12% back of the money you already lost, give me a call.
Securemoney.com. And Danny, once again, throw that number out one more time for people.
Yeah, 925-628-9966.
There you go, Dan Coach Emilio, and Danny's a great guy, as you can tell, and we're going double Coach Emilio sometimes in the post game because we're not afraid of the Coach Emilios.
Posting up.
That's right, little combo Coach Emilio. Kevin F donates $2. He says best post game late night eats in the East Bay. So this is a tough one. GTC Real says Kevin F. Nations Hamburgers is still out there. You can't go wrong with Nations. Nations is pretty good. There's one in Orinda. There's one in El Cerrito. Moraga. Nations is, I think can't you go breakfast late night at Nations too?
Oh, absolutely.
What time's the brown Bear open.
Black Bear Diner?
Or Black Bear Diner, I mean. Brown Bear. Black Bear Diner. They got one over
Pancakes
on...
as big as your face. I used to do their commercials. Yeah, Black Bear Diner, solid. It might not be open late night. But as far as, let me give you a couple other ideas. Okay, so as far as late night places, there's a bunch of places that they say are open late, but it's, the Melt is one of them. Lazy Dog Restaurant and Bar. That's I believe in Dublin. Lazy Dog Restaurant and Bar is open late. Blind Tiger, I believe, is a restaurant that's open late.
Taqueria Los Gallos in Concord.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you making that up?
No, I'm not. No.
So if anybody else in the chat wants to throw in some ideas for best post-game late night eats in the East Bay.
How late are we talking about?
Well, I mean, it's 10:41 right now.
We're talking now, or yeah.
Okay, so I got to say, for anybody that's near the Lafayette area, because you mentioned the Melt, there's this place that, okay, so it used to be a cheesesteak place, and it's now like, it's one of those like very new age things that I've only seen in LA other than this Lafayette location, where it's like 6 different restaurants in one somehow.
Really? Like a little mall?
Yeah, you have to order it online, but it's like the best. It's all like the best of all these different Bay Area things. I don't even know the name, but it's like, it's got the Melt. It's got like some Mexican option. It's got some like great ice cream option. It's got an Indian food option. It's just all kinds of like, it's like all the best, like, street food or street food truck options. All
Street truck
thing in Lafayette. So
what's the time on the In-N-Out? Kevin F says it's In-N-Out or bust.
It's like 1.
Man, they got a line at midnight over there in Pleasant Hill, right there on the one on what is
in
that?
San
right
Ramon?
Oh,
the one by San Ramon's always
close
packed.
to DVC.
Pleasant
There's
Hill's
one by
winning
DVC. One by DVC that's constantly.
I would say
full.
Jack London Square, right, in Oakland has some places that are open late night. Downtown Walnut Creek probably has some places that are open late night.
Oh God, 7-Eleven nachos, McDonald's.
Don't go 7-Eleven. Come on, you're better. You're better than that, Krueg show audience. You're better than the hot dog that's been there since like 2 o'clock in the afternoon
in the microwave. That's
God. Who eats that dog? By the way,
okay,
who's eating that food? By the way, it's at Club Sevi.
In college, I thought I was like this guy. I thought I was getting away with like murder, because what I would do is I would go get a dog. And you'd pay for one dog, right? And it was unlimited gross 7-Eleven chili and cheese. But I thought I was getting away with murder, because what I would do is I would throw 2 dogs in there. And then I'd put chili and cheese on top and just check out for one.
I used to go to AM PM down in Southern California.
Okay.
But in my 20s, man, 3 dogs I'd throw down for $1, and
right.
Gosh, and then you just afterwards, just feel like garbage.
Feeling like hell.
Yeah, but it was a
Man,
buck.
when I was going to Sac State, there was a place called the Pasty Shack on J Street, and it was next to Cub Toomey in like Midtown. No, not Midtown. It's more like in the 50s or 60s in Sac, over by Sac State. It was Club Toomey, and then they had the Pasty Shack. The Pasty Shack was made up of these it was basically like it was like beef and like potatoes and like a pot pie type thing. And it was incredible. Absolutely. Tom Pierce's Blondies does slices late. That's probably in Berkeley.
Oh,
you can check out.
Berkeley's
got a bunch of spots, I'm sure.
Blair, look at the technology. Am I right? Pasty Shack on J Street.
Yes. Where is it? Let's see. That's. I would say that red tablecloth looks very familiar. There it is, right there. That one on the top. That picture on the top 3 in. With the red tablecloth.
Sorry. Okay, I'll go.
You moved it. But yeah, there you go. Right. Yes, that's a pasty. That looks like it right there. Maybe not. Maybe that looks like a pot pie, actually.
A little, yeah. Just in a pot pie.
Yeah, a lot of people saying Blondies out in the East Bay.
What time's Fenton's open still?
Fenton's. Oh my God, Fenton's. If you can get to Fenton's, get to Fenton's.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
love that place.
The black and tan.
Yeah.
Or and the sandwiches at Fenton's are kind of underrated too. It's just, it's nothing elaborate, but man, Fenton's is hard to beat Fenton's. Gary Radnich had his 5 for 5 at Arby's. They've got the meats at Arby's.
They've got them.
Yeah. Hey, we never did throw out our predictions when you went into make the copies. We got caught up on some X's and O's on basketball, but
okay.
I'm going to take the Warriors. I'm going to take the Warriors if it's the Celtics. I'm going to take the Warriors in 7.
Yeah, I think we're all going to.
What's the format in the finals? Is it still 2-2-1-1-1?
Yeah, 2-2-1-1-1.
It's not 2-3-2. It's 2-2-1-1-1.
Got rid of the 2-3-2. Yeah, boy, that's going to be some travel for the Warriors.
Do you like the 2-3-2 better or the 2-2-1-1-1?
Well, I bet the players like the 2-3-2 better for the travel, but man, you lose one game in the first 2 at home. Ugh. It's happened quite a bit too. The team that got home court advantage comes back home for game 6 and 7 down 3-2. We've seen the Lakers pull it out. Seen. I think the Pistons may have done that. I can't remember, but I've seen a lot of that format when they were doing that. Teams had to win the final 2 at home and did it. But because you get game 6, then, you got the momentum for game 7. But how do
you think it's going to go? Because I'll say this. I think it's going to go Warriors win game 1 if it's Warriors Celtics. I think they split the first 2 in Oakland. Or in San Francisco, I should say. Then they split the 2 in Boston. So we get to 2-2 after 4 games. Warriors win game 5 in Boston. Warriors win game.
It's here. Game 5.
Or win game 5 at home and win game 6 in Boston.
Oh, winning 6, huh?
Yeah, 6. Warriors finish it on the road. The Warriors don't finish at home. They finish it on the road for the most part. So I'll say Warriors on the road in 6 over the Celts.
But they've all 3 of these series they won at home. This year, yeah.
Warriors have not lost a game at home so far this year.
What did you see that stat on Kerr? Was Kerr 20-2 in playoff series?
21-2 now.
21-2 in
only
playoff
lost
series.
To the Raptors and the Cavs. That's it.
Yeah. And you could argue that they had their chances. I mean, the Raptors was about injuries. The Cavs was about officials. So I mean, to me, that's a pretty spectacular record.
If KD didn't go down in what was that game 5? He came back in. They were down.
Oh, even if Klay didn't go down,
they would have won. The Warriors would have held on and won that game. But when KD came back, they were down 3-1 or 3-2?
3-1,
and they lost that game, right? That's the game Klay went down.
They won the KD game.
That he went down?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And then
because the fans were booing, but the Warriors prevailed.
That's right. So
that was a class. That was the Raptors fans' low moment right there. Oh, You're cheering an Achilles injury.
Jeez. Yeah,
seriously, talk about bad karma. I mean, talk about be careful stepping off a curb because you might get hit by a bus.
Yeah,
I mean, my goodness, you're bullying a guy with a debilitating, maybe career-ending injury. I mean, how you must be proud as you're walking back to the car.
What do we got?
Jaguayo 56 donates $5. Says Krueg, we're just so damn lucky for this team. When the 75 Dubs won, I thought we should win a couple more. 40 brutal years later, we win. Enjoy the wins. Jaguayo 56, you must be a little bit older than me because I was only 5 and 75.
I think he might be Jaguayo 56 years old.
Born in 56. Probably born in 56.
Maybe he's born in 56. Or maybe he's 56 years old.
Yeah, because if he's 56, when he turns 57, he'd have to change it.
That's right. There you go. Danny's thinking practically. See, that's why, Danny's got the retirement planning. He plans ahead where Rye's thinking in the moment. See the difference there? That's why you go to securemoney.com, ladies and gentlemen. That's why. Right there.
Born in 56.
Jackson Jason born in 56. Or as
That would
Alex
make
Bryant
him-
would say, to quote Gary, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But as far as predictions, I'm saying Warriors in 6. You guys have what?
Oh, I think we're both Warriors in 7.
You're saying Warriors in 7. All right. Well, I mean, I feel the one thing about this next round is I think this is going to be a unique challenge because, Boston is going to be a hellacious, their fans are crazy. It's going to be a tough place to play, but I think you guys are right. Peyton could be a key figure next round. I know that sounds crazy, but when you have a team that doesn't really have a dependable ball handler and you have a player who like Gary Payton, who can he can take a dependable ball handler and make him embarrass him basically. I mean, he's just one of the most incredible on-the-ball defenders of our lifetime. He kind of reminds me of Michael Cooper going back to that Lakers team. I mean, he's so smothering. I mean, it's amazing. The strength, the length, the tenaciousness, he's a second-generation NBA player. His dad was the glove. He's incredible. I mean, he is an impact defensive player. And I hope he does get healthy and I hope he comes back. But I really think that in some ways, guys, if he gets healthy and he comes back, you know what that's going to mean? He's going to leave. He's going to leave in the offseason because other people are going to see how incredibly dominating this guy is as an on-the-ball defender. And then what? Then he's going to get big offers in the offseason, and then he probably prices himself out of the Warriors. That will be my big concern with GP2. But I would love to see GP2 on the national stage just picking Marcus Smart at will because Smart's handle's a little loose, and Peyton's on-ball defense is absolutely top shelf, and I think he's going to tie up Marcus Smart and give him fits.
Hey, somebody earlier in the chat said that tomorrow GP2 gets reevaluated.
Yeah, well, good.
So
that'd be incredible.
Hopefully it's good news, and they say he's ready to resume full basketball activities because having him in there and hopefully Otto Porter, giving him the rest tonight, will be back next week as well.
Porter might be key too, Danny, because of the size.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're going to need Porter. You may see a lineup where you have Porter at times where you have to have, if Boston goes big, we might have to have Porter and Bielisa in there wouldn't likely see that. Haven't seen much of that, but Bielisa was key tonight. It was good to see him. He got 2 games in this series that I think the matchups, favored that. I don't know about Boston. Boston's quick and, Bielisa's a little slow footed defensively. They tend to be able to drive on them. But you look at, gosh, I still befuddled why so many people were picking the Mavs.
I know it is befuddling. That's a great word, by the way. I got to use befuddling more, but that you're so spot on that. If you're picking the Mavs, I'll say it again. You either know nothing or you know so much that you got over handicapped it. You know what I mean? You over prepared.
I'll say this. I think that the Warriors could have lost. This is a weird take, but I think the Warriors could have lost to the Mavs if this was round 1. If there was no nerves and it was round 1 and their guys are hitting their shots, I think the Warriors could have lost because they take such a volume of 3-pointers. But once you get into round 2 and 3, especially 3, I think that attrition plays a factor. And I think, stress plays a factor, honestly.
Jaguayo 56 donates $2 more. He says, Krueg 66. I'm 66 on June the 2nd. Guess what I want for my birthday? You want a title, big boy.
I was going to say he's born 65.
Born in 60.
If he's born in 56, he's 65 because I'll be 61. And I was born in 61. So
he's born in 60 and he made this.
No, he's born in 56.
He's born in 56.
He's going to be 66 here on the next week, game 1.
There you go.
So
Danny
Jaguar
figured it out.
will be 66.
He's the math guy.
So what that means is Klay's going to break his record and go for 66 in game 1.
Yeah.
That would be great. GTC Reels donates $4.99. Says, great show. Y'all remember there's no metrics like tellmetrics.co. Boston is going to be a tough series. I think the X Factors next round is Moody and GP2. Guys, what did you think of Moses Moody? I mean, he played 11 minutes. He was 2 for 3. He took 1 3. He made it. He's a guy who was really good at Arkansas. And I think if the Golden State had needed Moody to play rotation minutes this year more than he did, he would have been up to the challenge. But they're so deep and they're so loaded that he basically got a redshirt year to just sit and watch. I really think that he could have been a useful player if they had needed him.
Oh yeah, Moody is he's great on defense. He's quick. He's got long arms. He can drive. He can shoot. I mean, how about that shot? Is he the one that hit the shot at the 24-second? He just kind of flinged it up there and for out on the wing. I think it was. Yeah, then he hit the 3. What did he have? 5 points tonight?
Moody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he hit those 2 shots.
7 points, actually 7.
Oh, yeah.
He wound up with the 1 3, hit a couple free throws, 2 of his 3 field goals. One of them was a 3. So
I like Moody.
7.
Look at the Warriors here. And we talk about the core, the big 3. First it was Steph, and then came Klay, right? And then Draymond, 3 years, 3 different drafts, right?
I think
Draymond was the 35th pick in the same draft that landed Harrison Barnes. Wasn't it Barnes and Festus Ezeli?
Klay came second.
Klay came second. Yep.
Right.
Klay was
So look at this.
Steph, then Klay, then Draymond and Harrison and Ezeli.
This core comes together, and and they build the team through the draft with some good free agent plug-ins with Sean Livingston, who got to give the trophies away tonight to Steph and the Warriors. That was kind of cool seeing that because he's working with the Warriors now. They had some. Remember
Bogut
and Mo buckets and we the guard from Brazil
Barbosa.
Barbosa.
Yeah, Barbosa, and
we love championship.
Yeah, a lot of different key guys, but now we've got a new set of guys that will develop as a core. You've got Poole, Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman, 4 guys in the draft that you could start to build as.
And they got 3 picks in this upcoming draft.
Yeah,
and I love this upcoming draft. By the way,
one of my guys,
I love Gabe. Check out Gabe Brown from Michigan State. You're gonna love Gabe Brown.
Yeah. They got a guy they stashed away that played at was it Utah? Jessup or something?
Justinian Jessup played in what did he play? Down Under or something like that. Where did he play this year?
He was an Australian guy.
Yeah, he might be a kind of guy like Engels or something. That would.
You never know. He can shoot. There's no question he can shoot.
Yeah. But hey, I've got a few more restaurants.
Oh yeah.
This is from Steve, my brother, who was just on. He's been around the Bay Area for many years, and he said. Yoshi's in Jack London Square, a famous
there you
jazz
go.
house.
I knew that was a great spot in Jack London Square.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Skates on the Bay,
Skates on the Bay in Berkeley, I think.
Marina.
Right? Yeah, that's a good spot.
And Trader Vic's in Emeryville.
Look at Steve. Steve's rolling fat. He's suggesting Trader Vic's. Trader Vic's? That is awesome. That's have some Polynesian drinks and just throw back a couple $100 on cocktails and oh hell yeah. Oh, Steve's rolling Trader Vic's. That's awesome. The Carnelian. Steve weighed in. He said the Carnelian Room. The Equinox, the top of the Hyatt. Steve's got expensive taste. Danny, have you ever been to my favorite restaurant I've ever been to all time? Is in Phoenix. different point of view at the Point Hilton Tipatillo Cliffs. You ever been up there?
Oh,
So
the
you
one
ride
on
se-
right, the
you
one
ride
off
7th
7th Street.
Yeah, you ride 7th Street up to the top of the point, and the Point Hilton Resort is up there.
Yeah.
There's
One of my
there's
clients was the caterer there.
oh my God. I'm having dinner there in the 90s, and Barkley walks in, and he's like, had his own table. It's a 5-star place. It has a veranda that overlooks the entire valley in the desert there, and they've got the cigar bar. I mean, it's a five-star dining, cigar bar, full cocktails, unbelievable. I think I had the wild boar chops. It was incredible. Different point of view, different with an E on the end. That E costs you an extra couple bucks. It's kind of like when you go play golf and you play someplace that has a preposition in the title. That right there means there's going to be, the legend at Arrowhead. That just means that the green fees are like $40 more. You're paying for the preposition. Guys, this is our final couple moments here since we've already gone. We're coming up on 2.5 hours, and we're going to call it quits right here. But you got a final thought? I mean, Giants, we've been talking to Giants today, but the Giants were off today. They're in Cincinnati tomorrow. They actually wound up taking 2 out of 3. Danny, you got a quick thought on the Giants? Jock Peterson's exit velo the last 5 at-bats. 109, 112, 109, 108, 103, 112.
Well, Jock was
hammering the baseball right now.
Jock was there tonight. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. Was he there?
Yeah, let me show you a picture. Let me put it up here.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that he was there the other day, and he was talking to, I think, was it Klay Thompson or I'm not sure. I think it was Klay Thompson.
Yeah,
good for Jock, man. I love watching that guy. I love watching Jock.
Yeah.
He's given the Giants. He is by far my favorite Giant to watch.
Oh yeah,
Easily.
He's got 11 homers. He's second in the league now in the National League behind C.J. Cron and Mookie Betts, who have 12. Yeah, Giants traded for Hayden Cantrell today, a switch-hitting utility guy that can play.
Looks kind of fast, huh?
Yeah, very fast. Got a lot of stolen bases in the minors. Not hitting for much. Hitting below the Mendoza line right now in the minors.
Traded Luke Williams to get him. Poor Luke.
Yeah.
There goes my Luke Williams jersey.
My buddy, I thought that Luke Williams was going to be a huge part of the Krueg show because one of my buddies from college is like best friends with him. So
hey,
no more
with the Giants. There's some good things happening. I really said, Monday night was a debacle when we had Ned on and they just played.
You didn't think Ned was very good that night? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I know
don't put words in my mouth, Larry.
You just said Ned was a debacle on Monday night.
I said when we had Ned on, the Giants were a debacle that night.
Okay.
No, it was absolutely their worst played game of the year. They were just, errors all over the place, giving up runs. Anyway,
do you remember the post-game show that night where I said I would, if I was a GM, I would be Al Rosen and turn over the spread?
Oh, yeah, turning over the spread. Exactly.
Ned was laughing at turning over the spread.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've seen that spread in the Pittsburgh Pirates when I covered them in 1980. So I said, man, that's pretty nice. They got, at least back then.
You were there covering the Pirates when they had the Cobra?
I was in there in 1980. I had a press pass for
they had Madlock. They were defending champs.
Yeah, they were defending champs. We are family. Yeah. That was my experience of interviewing Dave Parker. I shared. Yeah.
Does Ryan even know the "We Are Family" reference? Ryan, do you when he says "We Are Family"? Does that register at all with you at all?
I mean, the song.
Know the song, Sister Sledge.
Family.
Yeah, that was the Pirates. That was there we go.
Sure.
Hey,
so
put that
he
on.
got it. There you go. I like that. He knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
All my brothers.
We misgauged. The
talent
musical,
on this, the level of
musical taste of
Ryan's
Ryan.
going to pull that up. I see him. I see his. I see
I
the
think
wheels
that's against
turning.
is that against the YouTube rules? You can't bust out Sister Sledge, right?
Well, I just texted YouTube and they told me, no go.
No go on Sister Sledge. Just trust me. It was a banger. It was a banger.
Yeah. So anyway, I said that 40 hours can make a huge difference if the Giants come back Tuesday night and win, and then, come back 12, 14 hours later on Wednesday afternoon and win the final 2 of the homestand. And like you said, Larry, if you're going to win 2 on a 6-game homestand, let it be the last 2.
Yeah.
So they go to Cincinnati with some momentum. Mike Yastrzemski is hitting 308, I believe, right now.
Are you a little bit scared of the Reds putting up 20 runs today against the Cubbies?
Did they?
Did they put up 20?
I think it was 25. If I
in Cincinnati or Chicago?
I'm not sure. Reds.
Hopefully it was in Chicago.
Hey guys, before we get out of here too, R.I.P. Ray Liotta.
Yes.
One of my favorite actors, New Jersey-born actor, rose to prominence in the 90s. He passed away. This guy was one of my favorites. I mean, I thought he was awesome in Something Wild with Melanie Griffith. Thought he was really good. I mean, Goodfellas. My goodness, Field of Dreams. He played Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams in '89. I thought he was really good in Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Madeline Stowe. He just great actor. He's had other things as well that I don't remember as well, but Ray Liotta, gone way too soon. Great actor, absolutely great actor. You guys have a favorite Ray Liotta movie?
I do.
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
What was
Sad.
that here?
67. Gone at 67. Oh, that was good. That was good. Ray Liotta, gone at 67.
Wow.
There's a lot of Joe Pesci there, too. That was Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta. Guys, final thoughts. Warriors move on to the finals. They get the rest they need. They dispatch of the Mavericks in 5 games. They get a week to rest. They don't play again until a week from Thursday. We had somebody earlier in the chat here saying, what am I going to do for the next week? Yeah, exactly. We'll do a lot of live streams. We'll do a bunch of Giants post games. We'll talk a lot of basketball between now and the opening of the finals next Thursday. But you guys got a final thought on the night? Giants had the off day. They're in Cincy tomorrow. Kaepernick, by the way, had a workout today for the Raiders. I don't know how legit that is. I'm rooting for Kaepernick to get back in the league because right now there's this kind of notion that he was blackballed. And if that's true, then that's true. But if it's not true, then I'd love for him to get a job and we could all move beyond that point. By the way, on the chat, Too Much says different point of view. There you go. Yep. That was it. Different point of view. Go check it out. Go check out the bar, the veranda bar, the cigar bar. You're going to love that place. When we go to the desert, we're going to party at Dan's house, but also we're going to go to Different Point of View and smoke cigars.
There we go.
And drink cocktails
Different
and maybe play a little golf.
Love it. Hey, my final thought, a couple of them. One, let me just point out on Kaepernick. It'll never happen because, leaving the 49ers. But if they're going to go with Trey Lance, he fits the style of play for a backup quarterback more so, I believe, than Nate Sudfeld. That's just my thought. I mean, because Lance is going to be able to move in the pocket more. But that's not going to happen. But I just think that.
Well, that's a good point because once upon a time, Shanahan did say, I like my backup quarterback to have a similar skill set to my starter. But I think the Niners quarterback room is pretty set. They're going cheap. Yeah. I mean, they're going to go with a room that ultimately winds up being cheap, which is, Trey on a rookie deal, Purdy on a rookie deal, Sudfeld on a very reasonable backup deal, very reasonable.
Something like that. Yeah.
So their whole quarterback room is going to be very inexpensive this year. That's kind of one of their advantages.
Yeah, you can build a championship roster by getting other key players signed like Bosa and Debo, and hopefully maybe another free agent that's a possibility or a trade. You have the cap room to do that if Jimmy G's gone. So final thoughts regarding tonight. I never worried about the Warriors at all. I normally
in this series or in this playoff run?
In this playoff run and even tonight, I really felt like when they're playing a really tough game, I'm kind of nervous. Like Ryan sometimes gets nervous about this or that, or the Celtics.
I get so nervous.
Yeah, when you know a veteran team, you knew that they wanted to take care of business tonight because they're aging. They know what they need. You saw the difference in intensity between Game 4 and Game 5. Game 4, they were not going to give it their all. If they were in the game, Dallas was cold, then they'd turn it up later and take it. But being that Dallas was red hot, they said, let's just save our energy, win it in Game 5. We're not going to go back to Dallas in Game 6 and possibly have to win it on our own home court in a Game 7. And you all know the adage in Game 7, anything can happen, right? So an injury or whatever. So I knew tonight they were going to put the pedal to the metal and throttle them. I really did. I think, Dallas got a little bit hot late in the third quarter and went on that 14-0 run. They were gassed. I mean, when Luka started the fourth quarter, I saw him go as he was walking to the bench at the end of the third, and he gave this motion to Kid, like, I can keep going. And I said, they're done. I know what kind of shape he's in, and he's not in enough physical shape to play at a high level for 24 minutes consecutive. You saw it. He's just tired. And so I wasn't worried a bit. Dallas had never had the depth. Warriors could drive at will on any of those guys. And, so next series will be a tough matchup. I want to see Miami at least force a Game 7 just so the Warriors
more rest.
Kind of what
more
we
of an
saw.
Advantage. Yep. Beat them up. Let those two sides beat each other up.
Yeah, kind of what we saw in Phoenix, Dallas. We were just making the comment in Game 6. Hopefully Dallas pulls off Game 6 so they force a Game 7. And that's what I'm hoping, that Miami and Eric Spoelstra somehow pulls out some of his magic. And he has a tremendous game plan for tomorrow night to somehow stop the Celtics. And if anybody could do it, a Spoelstra team could.
What do you think, Wright? You got a final thought on tonight? A nice win for Golden State, a 10-point win to finish off the Mavericks.
I'm so blessed to be a young guy, sub-30s, growing up in the Bay Area. Got to watch the Giants win 3 and 6 finals for the Warriors. Got to see 2 Super Bowls for the Niners. Unfortunately, they haven't won either, but man, I'm just basking in it. And man, I you know what? Give me Boston, because that's my final thought. Give me Boston, because we've been the 2 most winningest areas of the country, the Bay Area and Boston, for the past decade. Let's figure it out. We've ducked each other enough in 2 Super Bowls and 3 World Series, in 5 finals. Bring on Boston.
I agree. I agree. My sister lives in Farmington, Connecticut, so my nephew is
really?
a huge. Yeah,
I lived in Avon, Connecticut.
Really?
Yeah, right next door. I worked in Farmington.
Let's talk Connecticut. Let's I'll call you after the show. We'll talk Connecticut deep into the morning hours. 50 Cent, I think, is her neighbor.
Huh.
Yeah. Huh. Do you hang with 50 at all?
What's that?
Do you ever hang out with 50?
No. But my son was. He played Pop Warner, and Mike Golick was his coach.
Nice.
His Mike Jr., who ESPN was, and my son played on the same football team in Farmington.
Nice. Well, yeah, she's from Farmington. So my nephew is he's a great kid, and I love him. And he's just graduated college last year. And, he's a big Celtics fan. So you know what? It's on. Yeah. It's time. Nothing. We haven't gotten Niners Patriots. We never got Giants Red Sox, but we may get Warriors Celtics, and something's got to give, and it's going to be that Celtic green. So I'm already talking trash.
You know what I say to all those Boston Celtics fans out there?
Stick it.
get ready for night.
I need the Dan Coach Emilio Wiggins jam. But let me just make one point on Golden State. They got, one of the things that they're doing better now than they were doing earlier in the playoffs. They're taking better care of the basketball. They're not turning it over as much. That's one. Two, they're rebounding as a team. Wiggins, Looney, Bielitsa, and Poole combined today for 40 rebounds. 40 from those four guys. So Bielitsa only played 22 minutes. Poole came off the bench for 28 minutes. Those four guys, we're talking about Green is probably their best rebounder. Outside of Green, Wiggins, Looney, Bielitsa, Poole, 40 rebounds. So to me, Golden State's going to be a tough out right there just because of that reason and that reason alone.
Yeah. I got one more thought, Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's going to drive to the hoop again. He kicks it out.
Here we go.
Wiggins drives, goes in for a monster slam. Oh, no, they're calling it an offensive foul. No way.
The monster slam!
Monster slam! Hey, Rye, you got you're 26 and you've experienced 3 World Series titles and 3 NBA titles and now a 6th trip, and you've seen the 49ers in 2 Super Bowls.
The Sharks in 1 cup.
Yeah, I just got word. You live with your dad still, right? You kind of.
Yeah. Now I do.
Yeah, he's moving to Cleveland. You're now being transferred to the city of Cleveland that has 1 championship in all of sports in the last 70 plus years.
I gotta say, now that I've moved back to the Bay Area, now that this has happened. So I moved from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles. Boom. Lakers win it. Dodgers win it. Rams win it. UCLA makes an improbable Final Four run. Yeah. Now I move back to the Bay Area.
Okay.
Maybe you're the dog. Maybe you're the reason.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Stay there.
Let me just tell everybody, if you like the show, or even if you don't like the show, hit like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified every time we're doing a Krueg show. Really having a lot of fun doing the YouTube show. And there's also, this show in its audio form. And Ryan, we were just talking about that today. Yeah. For people who, maybe aren't YouTubers, they don't spend a lot of time on YouTube, but they want to support the Krueg show. They want to check in on some of this great content that we're creating and some of the post-game conversation. Tell them how they can do it via audio form.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, really wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review, leave comments. It's super, super helpful to the Krueg show. So yeah, for all you that maybe join in for a bit, or maybe aren't paying for YouTube Premium, so you can't leave YouTube open in your pocket because there's a chance that it might glitch out and choose another video. Feel free to hop on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, right?
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button. Hit it now. Hit it right now.
Hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Jackson J says Ryan is our good luck charm. There you go. That does it for us. We're back tomorrow. We got Giants on the road in Cincinnati, and that means it's going to be an early start on the West Coast. Is it a 5:00 start tomorrow? 4:00 start? We'll be on afterwards.
3:40 at
3:40. So we'll be on afterwards, doing a little post game on the Giants, talking more about Bay Area sports tomorrow night. But gentlemen, excellent job. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody who participated. Thanks to both Coach Emilios. Thanks to you, Rye. And gentlemen, we will see you tomorrow night. Have a good one.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.